Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Black Spinner Music Podcast. And today's segment, we are going to have guest pick. And today's guest pick is by Eddie Cannistraci. And his pick today is going to be Willie Nelson's 1974 classic, Phases and Stages. And joining us today with, of course, will be Eddie, who's going to be talking a lot about this album. But also, special guest with us tonight is Kate Ray from the International House of Vinyl and Vinyl Street. And Eddie Cannistraci, of course, is from the Rock All Over You podcast. So today we're going to be talking Willie Nelson, the 1974 classic album that is also bookended by other classics, because before this one was Shotgun Willie, and after this one was Redheaded Stranger. Now, this album is a concept album. And every time people say, oh, this is a concept album, this is a concept album, you always have to look for clues and try to piece together the songs. There's no guessing on this one. This tells you straight out what each song means and what this album stands for. Phases and Stages talks about a relationship between two lovers that has grown stale and fallen apart. Side one is the woman's point of view. Side two is the man's point of view. That's what makes this album so special. It hits both sides, and this is a great album. Faces and Stages by Willie Nelson from 1974, and the great Al Horta says hello out there.
Hi Al. Shout out to Al.
What's up? There you go. We got a little virtual.
Oh, now I see it. I have it in full screen mode, so now I see it pop up. That's cool.
All right, Edwin.
Shout out to Al.
This is your pick. Tell us why you wanted us to go through this album and what this album means to you in the first time you heard it, or around the time that it really started to get in your rotation.
Yeah, I got a lot to say about a lot to say about an album. Who would think that? But anyway, this is a very special album to me because for a lot of reasons, and it's gotten even more special over the years. But the headline here is this is my favorite country album of all time. All right, so like if we're talking just like straight country, if we're talking like straight 100% country music, there's no question. Now, Waylon Jennings is my favorite country artist, and overall, there's more Waylon albums that I probably love than Willie albums. But there's not one Waylon album that I love as much as Faces and Stages. This is the top album for me. This is the top country album of all time. And I love Waylon and Willie. I don't think it's possible to love one and not love the other, the ultimate country bromance. But yeah, Faces and Stages, I can tell you, well, actually, let me grab one thing. Hold on.
You know what's funny? I got so many Willies, but I don't have one Waylon.
I got a lot. I got a bunch of Waylon.
I have loads of Waylon and Willies.
Yeah, I really want a vinyl copy of the first one, Waylon Willie. Do you got that? Do you have that, Kate?
Which one's that one?
I want to know. I will look. If I have a spare, I'll mail it to you.
Oh my God, that'd be awesome.
I have. Who knows? I'm sure I probably have a spare. And
there is a Waylon album at the end of this, which is connected to this. Which is actually my favorite Waylon album and my second favorite country album.
And
it's
cool listening to that because a lot of these, there's a bunch of other covers of songs off of here because I noticed that listening to it, like when I'm in the car, I'm obviously listening to Spotify or something like that, and streaming. Once this album ends, it kicks off where like Waylon's doing them. Some other band, I can't remember the name, but they were doing another one. So there's like a bunch of covers, and then that runs into that Waylon album, and it kind of picks up.
Yeah, I'm gonna do like a recommendation because it's kind of a brother album to this album where there's a lot of the same songs. So I will talk about that. But as much as I love Waylon, these versions to me are the definitive ones. They're my favorite. My favorite version of Bloody Mary Morning, which we'll talk about when we hit that track, because that song has a history, and this is actually not the first version of it. But I brought this out because this was a box set I got a few years, I don't know, maybe like 10 years ago. It's a great box set. It's a CD, remastered CDs. of the Willie Nelson, the Atlantic years. Now, he was only on Atlantic for a very short period of time in the mid-'70s. He did Shotgun Willie, and he did this album, Phases and Stages. Jerry Wexler grabbed him, the famous Jerry Wexler, responsible for Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles, Led Zeppelin.
So many.
Yeah, so many. And Atlantic had started a country label. They were trying to branch out in the country. And Jerry Wexler, having a good sense for talent, he was like, let's grab Willie Nelson. Now, Willie Nelson had been around for a long time. He wrote Crazy. Of course, Patsy Cline's, big hit. And he was getting some royalty checks from that. He recorded it first. It was a cover. It wasn't like he wrote it for her. He did that song himself. But her version
never got picked up.
Yeah, her version.
Not like hers.
Yeah, but he had a lot of great stuff.
That's like Hello Walls. Like Sharon Young ends up getting the fame for that one, and he has so many that so many people don't have any idea all the stuff that he wrote. Where he's like earlier than Dylan, writing a million songs that get famous by a different person.
Yeah, and a lot of I think it was Jerry Wexler that said he's the Bob Dylan of country,
I love this story about this because he was at a party, and it's like winding down at the end of the night when a bunch of people have left. And he sits down with a guitar and he plays this Soup to Nuts. And Jerry Wexler's like, holy crap, we have to record this,
Yep.
And that's when they got him and they picked him up and they had this recorded in 2 days at Muscle Shoals. Like reading the backstory on this, it's like getting this whole album done in 2 days is nuts. And they wanted to use like Willie's band, but then they decided like they need to use the rhythm and blues section at Muscle Shoals because you can knock it out quick,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they created a whole different dynamic. They actually, recorded it again with Willie's band.
Yeah, and then they were saying like they threw it out. He hated the mix. Yeah.
And the thing is, and then afterwards, the album did, by Willie's standards, it did well, but it wasn't quite what Atlantic Records were hoping, And like this and Shotgun Willie were both like at the biggest Willie Nelson albums for Willie at that time, but still not big enough for them, and they decide to close up that branch. And, Jerry Wexler fought against him. They said, you're nuts. We got Willie Nelson. And apparently like the top brass Atlantic were like, Willie who? They were like totally.
We don't listen to country music.
And then look what happened. The next album,
oh my gosh.
Records,
could you imagine his most famous album of all time? Well, I guess Stardust beats Red-Headed Stranger, but still in my book, that's the epitome Willie album of like old Willie country album.
Yeah, that was his big breakthrough. Yeah.
Where he really just shoots for the moon on that one.
Yeah,
but
so Atlantic had to be thinking themselves, you would think,
Yeah.
But you have him. He was one album away from his big breakthrough.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And this is released in March, and then Atlantic drops the country label at September in the same year.
Yeah. But but many years later, they put on this is an amazing box set. I have a YouTube video about this album and this box set. So if check out,
I'll have to go back and check it out. I like when they do those releases because that's like the John Prine Atlantic years kind of thing when they do those box sets where it's all their albums off of whatever label.
Yeah, and they
those are always really good.
There's a great live album that they were going to record, like that would have been the next release if they didn't get dropped off. Live actually, which is amazing. And they're all like done in a little, like when they make them like the little LP versions, And it also has like 20 there's a lot of stuff. There's like the sessions. You have the whole other versions of Phases and Stages, the other mixes, and it's great. I don't know how much it goes for now, but I bought it when it was like brand new, so it was still retail price.
Yeah,
it was still retail price. I bought it on Amazon, and because this is the thing, like I grew up, just to go back a little bit, originally I'm from Philly, but when I was 3, my family moved me down to Florida, and I could just tell you in the growing up like in the early 80s, I'm sure it was like this even more in Texas, but in the early 80s you could not escape Willie Nelson down in South Florida. If you went into any saloon and bar, especially on the road again, you always heard on the road again. That was
just that first note rings out and you know what song it is. You get like
so like I had like memories, and also you heard a lot with Waylon, Don't Let Your babies grow up to be cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
And that was also an Urban Cowboy, which was one of my first memories was seeing Urban Cowboy in a drive-in in Florida. And and my parents would take me into little like bars where there'd be like sharks hanging over bars, like stuffed sharks, and I just remember Willie Nelson being played. So there is something. There was like kind of a form of nostalgia, whenever I would hear Willie. And even though I was never like growing up, and when I was teen, I got into like heavy metal and hard rock, and a little after that, like alternative rock and hip hop and different shit. Like it was a while before I got to country.
You come back around to these guys because these outlaw dudes, they are the OG punk guys. Like you think about it, and that's the punk lifestyle, the outlaw. Like anybody I know who is a huge punker, like hated other music, would only listen to punk music. They come back around, and that's a ton of these guys with this like revival, this resurgence of like folk and country. They were punk dudes, and then they come back around and come play this, So it's interesting to see how that turns.
All country, that's like this is all like kind of like some of the shit Dylan was doing too in the late '60s, early '70s. Nashville Skyline, all that stuff.
And it's funny. I feel like he's on like the periphery of outlaws because like him and Christopherson and John Prine and those guys, like they're the same time period, but they never get looped into the outlaw country.
No, exactly.
But I still feel like they could be, if
Gordon
they had.
Lightfoot, I think a little too.
Yeah, Gord and like R.I.P. Gord. I definitely feel like a lot of those singer-songwriter guys, when they're heavier stuff and they're more like going folk into country, heavier singer-songwriter stuff, that definitely is in the wheelhouse. They're just on like the periphery of that.
Yeah, and some of those guys, like Gordon Lightfoot, he was a real hellraiser. That guy.
Yeah, well, like Neil Young. Neil Young's another one I feel like you could almost count into that, where they're like any of the guys that are living on the edge of the law kind of thing.
And it's that rootsy music sound. And that's kind of what eventually got me to country was, I think, I don't know exactly, but it kind of feels like it was probably in my 30s, early 30s. I was getting into like Southern rock and rootsier stuff like ZZ Top, Leonard Skinner, and Neil Young. I was a huge fan of Neil Young, all that stuff in the 70s, his Ditch albums, Harvest, all that stuff. And I feel like it makes sense that would kind of eventually take you to Willie and Waylon. That's the thing. So it eventually took me, and like Kate was saying, it takes you back. You go back, and I was like, yeah, I remember I always liked Willie Nelson. There was never a period where I didn't like him, but I just didn't really know his music.
Seek him out.
Yeah.
And I had a similar progression in going from like a ska punk kind of teenager into my 20s, and then going in more to my late 20s and getting back into this original classic country, like all the way back. Like I'll listen to Carter Family and stuff. Like I go way back, but obviously all the outlaw guys have like a super soft spot in my heart. and I'm obsessed with, any of the old country guys. I just love all those guys. And that's any of those singer-songwriter like John Prine I adore. And, Chris Christopherson. And it's just so many people that have collabs with Willie too.
Yeah. Chris Christopherson was a janitor at the studio where when Nashville Skyline was being recorded and Johnny Cash and Bob Dylan were recording, and he was like assisting. He was like they let him like I forget like play bongo.
And he's a Rhodes Scholar.
He was paying attention. He's like, okay, this is how you write a song.
It's so just to think about him that like he's a Rhodes Scholar, he's absolutely brilliant human being, and then to be
it's like Good Will Hunting stuff,
like, and a great actor, and like he's one of those like polymaths that he's so good at so many things, and I don't know, it's wild. And man, Nashville Skyline, like Girl from North Country is one of my favorite songs of all time. So to get into that and thinking that he was there while they were recording that, and
taking it in. Yeah, I'm going to actually, one of my upcoming videos is going to be all about Dylan's country period. I'll let you guys know about that. But yeah, so Willie, so when I listened, I got that box set was actually the first Willie Nelson album I bought. Like I just wanted
nice.
I sampled it because by this point there was like YouTube and shit. So like I had sampled and I knew two things for certain, that I loved Whiskey River and Bloody Mary Morning. Like I was like, oh my God, these songs are awesome.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. If you love rock and roll, like those are songs that you kind of get into.
Gravitate towards.
They have like a rock
the last time I saw him, he opened with Whiskey River, and it just like, yeah.
I mean, he's got. I think they're those staples. He always does Whiskey River, Bloody Mary Morning. He did throughout the 70s and 80s anyway. And and that they happen to be the songs that were on the 2 albums from Atlantic. And so I went, okay, I'll buy this and check it out. And Shotgun Willie, that was the first one. So I listened to that first. It was amazing. I loved it. And then this one, Phases, Stages, it was instant. It just blew me away. I'm not a big concept guy for the album guy for the most part, but this had such raw feeling and emotion and in the songwriting. And I was just immediately taken by it. I was immediately like, this is one of the greatest albums of all time, period. And from that point on, then I got really deep, a little more Willie at first, naturally. But then, of course, if you get into Willie and you get deep into Willie, it's only a matter of time before you get deep into Waylon as well. And then eventually I got into Waylon, and then I got like really deep in Waylon. I got Waylon Jennings video I did too, talking about all his albums.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so but as much as a Waylon fan I became, like I said, Phase and Stages always became my favorite. I got this copy, this vinyl, because I thought when you asked me, Andy, like what's a record you want to talk about, I thought, well, it needs to be something I actually have on vinyl. I wanted to be pure about it. And this is a great record because I bought it in Amoeba Records. See the tag right there, $7.99. That's how much I got it. Not one scratch on it. Plays perfectly. It's fun. It's the original copy. It's an original copy from 1974. Someone at Amoeba, some dumb punk chick, like labeled it wrong or something. Because I'm telling you, this is. Well, sorry, pardon me for the microaggression. Could have been a dumb dude. It's true. Could have been a dumb dude. It was a dumb human being. What
are those suckers that worked out in your
whatever they were, whatever gender. They could have been gender fluid. I don't know. All I know is they were a dumbass because the album is $7.99 and it plays perfectly, and it's from 1974.
Oh my gosh. I was looking at some of his old stuff, like Short Hair Clean Cut Willie, and some of them are like in the hundreds of dollars. They're worth so much money if you can find like a nice OG or something. But they're releasing a bunch of stuff again on vinyl because of his birthday. So I can't remember the list, but there's quite a few albums they're going to drop this year because of his birthday, his 90th birthday.
I wouldn't mind, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't mind getting like a new mastered 180 gram version of this. I'm sure it would sound really nice.
Yeah, I replaced a handful of my stuff, so I have like one of those 180 gram Redheaded Strangers and like a couple special pressings and a couple of special live ones that they dropped in the last 5 years.
That'd be nice. Yeah, I wouldn't mind getting that. I mean,
I want to get an entire set, all 73 studio albums.
Oh, really?
Get a whole set.
How much is that? Wow.
I'll sell a kidney.
Yeah, you don't need every organ. Don't need every organ.
The good Lord bless me with 2. I'll be all
right. So, sums that back when you were like a fish ape?
I just got to lay off the binge drinking and I'll be fine.
Okay, now,
you don't need every organ. Don't you agree, Andy?
I think you only need one, but I don't think it's actually like
There you go, Clean Cut Willie.
Clean Cut Willie.
Mm-hmm.
Before
Hello Walls,
and this
See, and that's what I mean. Like that wasn't even one that was famous for him. That's
like
I got that. That one's great. That's getting into shaggier Willie. He's
he's starting to hair a little bit.
And then of course, Shotgun Willie.
His second best in my opinion.
It's a great album, man.
I love that album.
It really is an iconic album.
And then I could go on and on and on.
Because that's I wanted to look. Yeah, I wanted to look. I was like, I have no idea how many like actual studio albums he has. He has 73 studio albums, 26 collabs, 14 live, 51 comps, and 41 like video albums. So, like films that he was in with all those guys when they're in like Stagecoach or Oh, what the heck is the other one? There's
What's
another
that
big
other
one.
They
That
even did a
wild,
movie.
what
They
is
did
it?
Redheaded
Wild Texas
Stranger.
No, Honeysuckle Rose.
Honeysuckle Rose.
Honeysuckle
I
Rose.
have a couple
Great
of those.
album.
I have Honeysuckle Rose. I'm trying to think of what the other one I have is, but you guys know what I mean. I mean, he's just.
He was also in one of my favorite movies, totally not country related, but he's in Thief, Michael Mann's Thief, which is a great movie.
Oh wow, yeah. I wouldn't
Well,
even thought of that.
he played. He was in an episode of Miami Vice.
What's
It's funny. He's been around so long, and he packs it in. Like he gets a lot into his time on this planet.
Oh yeah, Willie. That's the thing. I mean, it'll be sad when he eventually passes.
Yeah,
it could be this year. I mean, he's getting up there. Let's be honest.
Don't say it. I want to go see it.
The man's in his 90s.
I know he's 90.
But all I'll say is, more so than a lot of people, I will say I think it needs to be a celebration when he dies, because Willie, let's face it, he's lived longer than most people, and they
need to put him in like the Smithsonian or something.
I mean, it's not like he even lived a safe life. He lived a wild, reckless
that's
life.
the craziest thing, to be an outlaw lifestyle and be.
I mean, think of how much longer he outlived like Waylon. Like Willie's been around. He had a great life.
Yeah, but he's also staying active. That's what helps a lot.
I think
he's still touring. He's still
working. You know,
he's still recording. He just did a single with Billy Strings. Did you guys hear that? California Sober.
No,
I just dropped. It's really cute. I don't know. It's cute because Willie's in it, and like it's Billy Strings with him, and they sing together a duet thing. It's good.
No, I think that's what's keeping him young, is that he keeps working.
You ever see? You remember Kill Bill Volume 2? Michael Madsen, who I'm a big fan of. When he's in the trailer and he plays that character Bud, and he's making margaritas, and he talks about how you shouldn't retire, because if you retire, he said it's a statistical fact. The people
all those guys just die
younger than people that keep doing their job. The people that keep doing their job tend to just live a little bit longer. And I think that's why Mick Jagger still dances around and stuff, even after he had open heart surgery.
Yeah, look at him. He's still keeping.
Yeah, he's like, I want to keep living, so I better keep doing my little duck walk on stage and dancing and shit, because otherwise I'm gonna die.
You know, he went back out there like correct me if I'm wrong, but at least less than a month.
It was crazy. It was crazy, and he was like dancing, and he did, it's amazing. These guys are all amazing, and you know, even if you pass away, it's sad. Like Lemmy and Motorhead, like he did on his terms, and he died doing what he wanted to do: rock and roll, playing live. And you know, he didn't have he didn't play it safe and I'm gonna sit around and retire for a year or two. He's like, no, I'm gonna just keep doing what I do until the end. You know,
he must have known he was sick for a minute, and that we saw him in September, and then he died in December. I mean, I saw him right before he died. You never would have known he was sick at all, and he's like dying of liver cancer.
Yeah,
we just got lucky to Riot Fest in Chicago that year. What was that, 2016? I think December 16 is when he died, but it was just a random thing. Go to Chicago just for that Riot Fest. Lemmy's closing it, and then he's gone. And it's like, what the hell? Like, he didn't even look sick at all, and then 2 months later he's gone. But he was just that person that.
I was in New York City. I saw him in the late, I don't know, it was like the late O's, I think. I saw him at Roseland in New York City. I was living in New York, saw him in New York, and a month later, I saw Jerry Lee Lewis.
Holy smokes! How old was he in the late?
But Jerry Lee outlived Lemmy. This is what I'm getting at.
He lived a long time.
And I could tell you this: I would never have thought if you had told me then that Lemmy was going to die years, like a good 5 or 6 years before Jerry Lee Lewis, I would have said no way in hell. Jerry Lee was really old. Like, he couldn't really even move. He was at the piano. Other people came, like Nora Jones, Ron Wood, Kid Rock. He jumped on top of the piano. Like, there was a lot of people there. They were all kind of helping Jerry Lee. Like, you could see, like, they were there.
Keeping him up.
Yeah. But he was there. He's, like, sitting at the piano. The piano had, like, flames on it. It looked cool. And I'm a huge Jerry Lee Lewis fan. So I was just like, I can't believe I'm actually across from the killer himself, you know.
It's so weird.
But whereas Motorhead, like, Lemmy's up there and they're rocking, and it didn't feel like Jerry Lee Lewis, with all respect, it felt like I was watching an old person. Whereas Motorhead, it didn't feel that way. So when the fact that he died so many years before Jerry Lee Lewis, just sometimes it's just random and talk
felt
about.
like Lemmy looked the same for like 30 years. Like he
he
still
went down
looked
fast in,
exactly like Lemmy.
Month.
Yeah.
Like the last month, if you watch some of those last concerts, you could see.
Yeah, you can see it swearing on him, but he was so sick.
There.
But when I saw him, I mean, you would never ever know that.
He was holding strong for a while.
Never guess.
Yeah, I saw him in the early 2000s when I saw Lemmy, when I saw Motorhead.
Amazing, and he liked I know he liked country female singers. He said that once, that he loved country female singers, that something about their voices really moved him. Of course, I do too. I love all that. I love it was the men. I gotta admit, the men brought me in. I connected with them. And what their pathos, the Willie Nelson masculine pathos of being sad. Even though you're the reason for the divorce. Like
you're the reason for your own shit.
Like you're hell raising and you're sleeping around and you're getting you're doing all this crazy shit, and then the woman leaves you, and then you cry in your beer. Like
you're like, but it's not supposed to be this way.
I have this quote. My wandering ways were too much for any woman to put up with. Yeah. I'll always love Connie, but I'll always love all my wives. That's what he had that when like all my exes live in Texas, because he really did take care of all of them even after, and he talks about it that he really does still love all of them. They just couldn't put up with him being a maniac.
Like that song, all the girls
I loved before.
Yeah.
That was a song I heard a lot in the 80s growing up. Oh my god. But this one, and we'll talk more about it, but one other thing about this album. Okay, it's called a lot of times, people refer to it as a divorce album. Yep. Up there, like Bob Dylan's Blood on the Tracks, which technically is a separation album because they didn't get divorced.
Until
2 years later. But 2 years later, they got divorced and they weren't living together. So at very least, you could say Blood on the Tracks is
split up at least.
The marriage is over album.
Right.
And it's amazing.
Great about songwriters and about rock and roll. You love these artists because they're telling you what's going on. It's just amazing. I'm sorry.
They can articulate what a lot of people can't. And also, there's another album I love is Marvin Gaye's "Here, My Dear." I don't know if you guys have ever heard it. That's his divorce album, amazing album. And I always thought, like, I kind of considered like the split up with your lady album, like the trifecta is Bob Dylan, Blood on Tracks, Marvin Gaye, "Here, My Dear," and Willie Nelson's Faces and Faces. Yeah, and
you hear that, guys? If you're going through or gals, here's your albums to cope with.
And it's so funny about that Marvin Gaye album, "Here, My Dear," was that before he recorded it, the judge had declared that his next album, all the proceeds are going to go to her. So he made an album that freaking trashed her.
well, he did. Actually, if you listen to it, that's the thing. That was the plan.
Yeah.
That's the thing with Marvin Gaye. The plan was, I'm going to make this album as a big fuck you. But if you actually listen to the album, because Marvin, deep down inside, he had a lot of love in his soul. It actually ended up being more of a tribute.
Really?
It had moments here and there where it was there was some anger expressed. But for the most part, he was expressing like love and respect to this woman.
This has that.
Yeah.
Even this has that where it's like that.
Yeah. And so the Blood on the Tracks as well.
Yeah, like you want to hate them, but that turns around and it's like, no, you really like obviously still love them even after everything.
Because you'll start to see that he's lost without her, even though he had a great time. He became lost at Well, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess of those three albums, they're all amazing. Yeah. But I go with this as the best one of the three. And I'll say it's a different mood. Like I will say, like Blood on Tracks, for example, is a little more. It's actually a little more cry in your beer than this album is, which is funny because people would think the full out country. Bob Dylan was a country singer too, in my opinion. But in terms of full out country singing, like Willie Nelson, you would think he would be more the cry on my beer guy. And there are a couple ballads, and we'll talk about them that are cry on my beer. But for the most part, I think this has kind of a positive message ultimately, especially when you get to the last song. On both sides, for both the woman point of view on the first side and the male point of view, it's about like, you got to dust yourself off and kind of get back into the game again. And Blood on the Tracks doesn't really do that. Blood on the Tracks kind of leaves you with buckets of rain, and it kind of leaves you kind of in a more melancholy, reflective state, and which is beautiful too. But the difference is, like, you listen to Blood on the Tracks, and as a man who's been through a divorce in the past couple of years, I can tell you that makes you cry.
Yeah.
I cry. I'm not ashamed to say I cry when I listen to that album. But Phases and Stages doesn't make me cry. It makes me actually feel good. It's kind of like Willie's got your back. He's like, yeah, I've been through this. Hey, divorce, not a big deal. I do it I do it every couple of years. Like,
every time.
let me work you through this. It's not a big deal. We'll be fine. She'll be fine. You'll be fine. And we're going to be fine.
There'll be another divorce down the road.
You'll move on. You find a new love.
You find a new love, and you go to the beer joint, and you dance, and you have fun. Maybe the jeans are a little bit tighter than they were before.
I love it. Yeah, they're a little bit tighter.
But right. you move on. So it's actually an album. On one final personal note, it's an album that's really, it helped me a lot in recent years. I don't know. It's almost like it was foreshadowing. Like I was destined to be a scrappy 40-something divorced guy because I love Phases and Stages. It's like it's kind of marked it in my subconscious that this had to be. I had to be a guy that at some point would be drinking bourbon and sitting in a condo in Florida and listening to this album and being like, yeah, I get it, Willie. I get it.
Amen, Willie. Amen.
It was predetermined. I could not escape my fate.
It's written.
It had to be. Had to be. So, Andy.
Yeah. All right. Let's get started on this.
Let's do this. Let's do it.
Let's go from track 1 until we finish this album. We've talked about what this album is, so now let's go ahead and dig deeper into song by song, track by track. Starting with side 1. Go ahead, Edwin. Start off side 1.
Well, it starts off as Kate and you alluded to. This is an album that even if you didn't know it was a concept album, you would figure it out because there is a motif, there is a theme that is reoccurring, and it is I guess you could say it's kind of the title track-ish.
Right.
The title track-ish comes around periodically on this album. Phases and Stages is the motif. It's a reoccurring musical passage and lyric that he sings over and over again throughout this album. It kind of comes up like a wind that kind of blows in from time to time on this album. And it starts it off, so it's Phases, and it even says in parentheses theme, so it's telling you this is the theme. This is the theme. It's more of a motif, but I won't be overly technical with Willie. Love him. But Phases and Stages, it's the theme / washing the dishes. Now, I kind of do think of these first 2 songs as one song, but technically they are 2 tracks, so we'll just deal with the first part.
Simple, washing the dishes.
Yeah, and like the first side is through the woman's point of view. And this is like, this is pretty, I gotta say, it's pretty not surprising because Willie, is kind of famously one of the most liberal people in country. But just gotta say, it's rather progressive. Even though he himself was a hell-raising guy to cheat on his wife. Like any true.
He's not his second wife in this album.
but in his heart,
I should say post second wife in this album. He was divorced from her in 1971. I posted a song. Did you guys see that thing I posted?
No, when you
because his second wife is Shirley Colley, and she's a country singer too, and they have a duet that I posted that's called Willingly. And there's a lyric in there where it's like, holy crap, you realize he is like hanging out and singing with her, but he is gonna leave his wife at the time for this broad because he was with Martha Matthews from what was he was like 18 when he got married and she was 16, so it was like 52 to 63. He's married to Martha Matthews, or 62, sorry. And then he meets this Shirley Colley and he's doing songs with her. But that song I posted, wait till you listen to the lyrics, you're like, oh, damn, like he already had it planned. And then he marries her in 63, right after his divorce from the first one's finalized. Yeah. And then he's divorced again in 71. And then this drops in 74. And he had interviews where he says that this isn't about him or his divorces. It's like, come on.
Bob Dylan said the same thing about all the tracks. Bob Dylan said the same exact. That's not autobiographical.
Yeah, there's one song that I was reading that was Still Can't Believe You're Gone allegedly was like one of the other guys that works on this album. It was about like his wife commit suicide, unfortunately, but supposedly that kind of influenced that. I was reading like all these different like postings and blogs about this album, because there's just so much like almost superstition even that goes into the background on this, just knowing like, yeah, I don't know, it's funny deep diving, because that's, you know me, I go and read everything I could possibly find when we're doing one of these, so it's like so much background stuff. But I'll let you finish. Sorry, Ed. I was just
no, it's all right. That's all intro. I didn't actually know.
I think it was interesting. You got to check out that song that I posted. It's called Willingly, and I posted a music video of it. But it's like, damn, you realize these lyrics you're listening to, and it's like something of we should wait until it's okay or appropriate or whatever. It's like, he's already like planning this.
That's like the real woman's point of view. So it's that Willie's projecting into it. But you know, it's all, as a concept, it's a progressive concept. You know, this idea that one side is the woman's point of view, you know, and then he's going to do the male point of view, and you know, it's so you got the face. It establishes the theme, and then goes into her point of view of washing the dishes. That, you know, essentially she's at home, she's washing the dishes, she's doing the domestic shit, she's with the kids. Well, he's out there being a country music star and flying around and
running around, living his life.
And he's empathizing. Obviously, he's empathizing perhaps a little too late, but he's empathizing as an artist, and he can do it, and he's writing a beautiful song. And just the melody, I mean, this is a thing you'll hear again and again, is Willie Nelson. You know, I'm not going to talk about this quite yet because I feel I'll talk a little more about it when we get to the third track. But Willie's voice and the way he phrases something, the melody, it's just like it's a thing unto itself. It's unto itself. Yeah.
This one's just such a heartbreaker. This one made me shed a tear, and it's like caring for someone who don't care anymore. I was like, damn it, Willie, you just crushed my heart. I don't know why.
There is this thing, though, and I could tell you this as a guy who's been through a divorce. It's that old cliche. It's like that Cinderella song. You know, you don't know what you got until it's gone.
Yeah.
You always can put things in perspective better afterwards. That's you know, while you're in the middle of it, you're just like, this person's annoying you.
Well, and that's
but afterwards, you realize how much they brought to your life and what they were doing and their sacrifices. And you kind of sit there because you have time to meditate about it because you're alone and you're not with your partner anymore. So as a result, you kind of think about this, and and then he can project that into the lyrics.
Because that's that grass is greener thing, and that's the first album on the flip that I'm like, I'll talk about it when we get there, but that's definitely that where it's like, woohoo, I'm free kind of thing, and then it goes into him.
Then it hits,
it hits him.
But you can see, like, washing dishes, he's thinking about, like maybe he didn't think that during the marriage, but he thought about it afterwards, like how boring her life might have been when I was off there running around.
I think this is so perfect in the way that it encapsulates each person's thoughts and like their emotion behind each song, where it's like this start off with the woman's point of view and then it ends with her freedom song kind of thing. And I'm going to talk about it more, but it's like her kind of freedom song and getting back out there songs. And then the flip is the guy starts off with the freedom songs and then the regret sets in. And it's like, oh, it's so perfect because that's how it is when you know so many. I mean, obviously not every couple that I've ever known to like split has been that way, but that's definitely a lot of people. They realize it after, and it's like, ooh, yeah. And this just hits so hard. It is.
Yeah, because it can be any kind of relationship. It really can be.
I agree too. Yeah.
Yeah, friendship, but
friendships
being done as a romantic husband, wife, or deeply involved adults. What I thought about washing the dishes, you know, it starts off with her doing all these chores, but her loving it. You know, she's providing for her man, she's providing for her family, and until she starts to see the stains on his collar, you know?
Yeah.
And then she starts to, what am I doing all this for? Am I being taken for granted? You know,
well, it was caring for someone who don't care anymore, and I'm like, oh,
that just
it just gets me. Line. Oh my god, yeah. Oh my gosh, that one just like And the way he leads this in, where he goes like, someday she'll just walk away, and that leads into walking, and I'm like, damn, that's so good. It's so well written.
Yeah, and then in between that, it does the phases and stages.
It does the phases again, and I'm like, this would have been, if they figured out how to make this like a film or a stage play, almost even like a musical, it could have been. So those interludes and the like callback that keeps happening with that, like, oh man,
there is something very cinematic about this album.
It is. You can. Yeah. I always say that soundscape thing. I always say that, where I'm like, this is like the soundscape. Like I have an entire film in my mind of this. Even if it was like a operetta or something where it's like in my head, I can see the whole thing play out because he just pulls it off so flawless in the way it leads into this situation, leads out, leads into the guy's situation, and leads out again. And I'm like, oh, brilliant. It's like a 2-act play. It's just, I don't know. It's so good. Yeah.
There's, I don't know if either of you have ever seen the movie Shoot the Moon?
I don't know. I never have.
It was in the early 80s, and it's Diane Keaton and Albert Finney. It's a great movie.
I love Albert Finney.
There you go. Well, there
that big fish when he's in that. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, I have.
I've seen that. Yeah.
It's Albert Finney and Diane Keaton, and they're going to divorce.
Shoot the Moon.
Yeah, Shoot the Moon. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna write it down so I remembered it.
And that's a divorce movie, and in a lot of ways that makes me think of this album because it's about the kind of back and forth. And usually in the cases, as Bob Dylan knows, and a lot of people know, it's never, and from my own experience, never, especially if you've had a marriage for a long time, it's never so cut and dry. Usually there's a separation first. There's like a period before you finally can separate.
There's that bad blood for a while before you actually split it off, and that in between is such an SOB of that, like, just, I don't even know. It just is taxing. It's so.
Yeah, well, it's a big.
I don't even have words for it, but that, like, that just really being in a situation where it's like you love that person as much as you hate that person at the same time. It's such a weird.
And this thing this album captures in which
that
even afterwards, like the following year or so, it's like the phase and stage is coming back. Like you think about it, like you don't have a day where you don't think about it. And that's the thing where the periodic
when you hear that you hear that regret of all this, like going into it, like her coming out of it and him going through it too, and you hear these tales of regret and how things played out. And just, I think love and hate are very close. They should be opposites, but I think when you care so much about another person, that's a very fine line into having problems and feeling that much, like a passionate, such a strong emotion. Right. And they're very close to each other, which people think it's an opposite thing. And I don't think so. I think it's like, you obviously have to give a whole hell of a lot to even develop hate for someone.
To get to a certain point.
There's apathy. There's a difference. And that's like feeling apathy towards someone when you don't care anymore. And hate is a very different feeling.
Well, and we'll get to that on a certain time.
We will get to that.
But she finally walks off. She walks off.
Well, the thing I love in this
2 tracks, and it already feels like we've been through a lot. And
the thing that I laughed about listening to this, where it's like washing the dishes, scrubbing the floor, and it's like learning to hate all the things that she once loved to do. I'm like, nobody loves to do scrubbing the floor. Nobody loves to do your launndry. Like, that's such a man-written lyric.
Yeah, it really is. It's a very
like, nobody loves that shit.
But her doing it
caring for that's exactly it's like you're doing it because you love this person.
It's not because they're just there scrubbing the floor loving it. It's the home that they shared. So
that caring for someone who don't care anymore lyric just broke my heart. I was like, damn, that hits hard.
So walking.
So were we rating stuff, or are we just going through it?
We're just going to kind of talk.
Just talk about it. Because I wrote down numbers, but then I'm reconsidering all my numbers too. So
I'll say like what my top like 4 songs are when I hit them.
Yeah.
But obviously at this point, this album's a sophisticated, mature, subtle album. So it doesn't like the first 2 tracks. Like I said, I kind of think of them as one track. They're more kind of like setting the mood. In a way, I kind of feel like the 3rd track is like the first proper song, if you know what I mean. Like this is more like setting like a play or a musical. It's kind of like
that's how I felt about it, because that one, you have the overture, and that like repeating theme is not on the 3rd track. So when you hit the 3rd tracks, like the first full song.
Like that's an actual like song, like independent even of the album. Whereas the first 2 songs, as great as they are, you wouldn't necessarily want to listen to them outside the album. They're part of the fabric of the album.
That's like that's how certain albums will have like a 2-peat or like a trilogy thing that like you have to listen to the suite, and that's the beginning of this. It's like you need to listen to those 2 back to back because they just fit together. And that's how I said that lead out of Walking Away and then leading into Walking.
And then when you're looking at albums and you see songs that says theme next to it, you're like, ugh. But not at this point. You're like, okay, this is important.
That's in listening to this where I was like, wow, I've really never sat down and listened to this start to finish and thinking about this, where I'm like, damn, like I knew a few of the songs on it already from listening to a lot of Willie, but I'd never listened to it all the way through. And in starting listening to it, I listened to it like 6 times in the last day and a half, because it's a quick play too. It's only 33 minutes or something. I mean, it's a short album,
time for an album.
But it's just one of those that like you put it on, you're driving and not thinking about it. And like my drive to work's like all of side A, my drive home is all of side B. And I listened to it like 4 times last night. And man, I don't know. Each time you're hearing something different, each time it hits you a little bit different.
Yeah. And I think more so than any of his albums, this album you got to listen to as an album. I would say it's most album-ish.
This one's, you need it soup to nuts. Play the whole thing. Yeah.
Even though the songs like Pretend I Never Happened and Bloody Mary Morning can stand on their own as being great songs.
That's
when you listen to them and the context.
Oh yeah, they have a context.
The albums, it's like it goes to a whole different stage.
That hits a lot harder.
Yeah, because I've always loved Bloody Mary Morning. I just, they mentioned Houston, yay! But then when you hear it on here,
hey, hold on, Manny, we're getting to that one.
I know.
I got a lot to say about that song when we get to it. I'll take the next. Listen, do you want to say anything else? I think we said everything kind of about the first 2 songs.
Yeah, so let's move to Pretend I Never Happened.
Yeah, Pretend It Never Happened. Obviously, like we're kind of all agreeing on, kind of the first proper song on the album after the mood that's set with the first 2. And this was the one, I mean, I was instantly like engaged by this album, but it was this song when I first heard it, even listening to it, back when I first listened to this album, that's when, boom, I knew I was going to be a big Willie fan. Like, this is a perfect song. It's just a perfect goddamn song. And the title alone, what a great lyricist. Like, to me, Willie Nelson should be in a conversation with Bob Dylan. He should be in that kind of conversation, with a lot of the great John Lennon, Lou Reed, pick your great lyricist. He should be up there.
He's way up there.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying about how many songs he's done that other people made famous, that it's like, damn, like
it's an amazing song. He's one of the great songwriters of the 20th century.
Crazy.
One of the most beautiful songs ever written. Yeah. It's so good. And the lyrics, like the lyrics throughout this album, they're so penetrating. They have dark humor. They have humanity. It's amazing.
Yeah,
he's just one of those guys who can make
all the different phases of life and emotion and feeling.
This really one makes you feel all the feels.
It's funny because I didn't know until recently, like Kate, I was doing the research. I didn't know it was the core rhythm section was an R&B band. Like you wouldn't know because it sounds like country.
Because it's Muscle Shoals. It's like how like the Wrecking Crew and different places had their studio band, and this is Muscle Shoals. Studio band, which like they do a flawless country album.
Yeah, you wouldn't know.
Damn fine country album, but it's just funny that you wouldn't know this is like their rhythm and blues guys, like guys who are backing up like Clarence Carter or somebody
You
else.
would
They were
never
like, wait a
know it.
minute.
But
Yeah.
yet, if you do know it,
Yeah.
then you kind of can hear how there is a tightness to it. There is a focus.
It's professionalism where
Yeah.
Willie Nelson and a family is a little bit like
Yeah.
a lesser
Willie's
Crazy
band's
Horse,
more
where they're
loose.
a little bit
Yeah.
more looser.
They're
You
just
can
more
hear-
loose and like you can hear the relaxedness and
Yeah.
Yeah.
like
You can hear
their
relaxedness is not
craziness
a
pretty
word,
much.
but you can hear it in their other
I think
albums.
it helped Willie, and Willie did say this too. He said it helps bring out the blues, but I think even more than that, I feel that by Jerry Wexler forcing him to have a core band that was, and there was still like some steel guitar.
Yeah, because
players
it's
and
like
people that
Martin and
country,
Wexler
but-
are the producers on this, and that's when they recommended, like, all right, we could use Willie Nelson Band, but we should do this. We can knock it out, and then it's like, oh, you did this whole album in 2 days because you had a sessions band on it. Yeah,
and they helped Willie kind of focus and kind of perfect his sound.
Oh man,
so then he could do it even without these guys. But for this album, you can hear that it is a little more distinct. The funny thing is, even though it's session musicians, more so than even the last one, it sounds more distinctly Willie than Shotgun Willie. Like this is really kind of where he gets the sound down.
Yeah,
like sound as an artist, and also Waylon. You can hear the influence it had on Waylon. Waylon would have these tighter productions.
There's certain stuff on this that.
Bass.
Yeah, this is certain stuff on this that is definitely Waylon, and even like I said, listening to this, and then it leads in from this album to other stuff on the like radio streaming. Then it's Waylon covering stuff from this, and like you can totally tell how this had an influence on how not tight. I don't want to say tight, but I want to say like together. When he has certain stuff that
it's kind of tight too, though. I do.
Yeah, when like Waylon has some stuff that it's like, okay, this was really well thought out, and it's not just like willy nilly. Like it's laid out and played how he wanted it and how it was meant to be set out. So that's tight, but not in a negative connotation, like a good.
Yeah, well, I see tight as positive. Tight.
Yeah, it's tight. Yeah, but he's just. It's funny hearing this in such a different sound. Like not such a different sound, obviously, but it's a very different. Je ne sais quoi. I don't know what I want to say, but it's just different. Listening to it, it's like, oh man, Willie has such range in all the different things he can do, and then especially like we were saying with just lyrics, he's also one of the best of all time.
And also, I want to talk about singing here. Like the way he phrases things, and this is the thing that distinguishes, I think, Willie from. It's kind of similar to Marvin Gaye for R&B. Is one thing Marvin and Willie had in common was they both brought a jazz sensibility to their respective. This
has that this song, especially on this, has that weird like break beat where it's like da 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 bam bam, and then like keeps going. It's just a different. It's not a normal country progression for a song.
And if you ever listen to like how Willie's singing, especially as he really comes into himself on this album, he has that jazz influence. There's always a little bit of that. If you go back even to the 50s, like Nightlife and stuff like that, it would always be a little bit.
Oh my gosh.
There always was a little bit of jazz to Willie.
Yeah.
Willie loved Frank Sinatra. He loved Frank Sinatra.
You could see like a smoky dark club, and he's singing that in the middle of it. Oh my god.
And it's like this is the album where he finally kind of learns to kind of get that, concentrate that, and kind of put it through all these songs, especially on the ballads and this song too. Like his phrasing is part of the thing that excites you because he just doesn't do things in a traditional country way, and he hits the notes and he prolongs the notes. One thing, Miles Davis was also influenced by Frank Sinatra. A lot of people were influenced by Frank Sinatra. And because of Frank Sinatra's, I would say he had a kind of a sustained, clean phrasing that was almost like a muted trumpet vocally. And like, because most singers would do like a vibrato or something more heavy-handed, whereas Frank had total control of his vocals, especially if you hear like stuff like Only the Lonely and albums like that.
Angela. Oh man, yeah.
He knew how to project his voice in a way for kind of a, I would say, kind of a soft power, a kind of soft, concentrated.
There's that backing to it though, where it's like this is there's an ass on it. I don't know how to say it.
Well,
There's like,
that's the thing.
there's
There's a masculinity to it too.
oh,
That's the
man.
thing. Even though he's sensitive, there's a thing about Frank Sinatra.
There's still like a pride and a strength. And like
there's still strength.
Yeah, you know,
there's
it's
still
not.
Strength. And that's something I've heard and singers that were from Elvis.
And Willie definitely has that. Willie, I think. Yeah. And I think Willie's another one that, like, on top of not getting credit for being an amazing lyricist, I think his vocals, like, there's something, and how you were saying it earlier, the nostalgia, but to me, it's like such a wholesome, even in all the like Rebel Rouser songs and everything, there's something really wholesome in my like feeling towards Willie that it's like,
yeah, there's a strength. It's almost it's like kind of a fatherly.
He's
strength.
yes,
like he's there. He's like, gonna take care of things for you.
He's your sweet dad that sang lullabies and stuff to you at your bedside. Like there's something so wholesome going on.
There is something very comforting about his voice. That's the thing. Yes. Too. He knows how to phrase voice where it's comforting, and that's why I said like the difference is like and I do. I mean, it's a different kind of singing and not as quite on the level as Willie. But like you listen to Blood on Cracks and Bob Dylan, and you're like, oh shit, this guy gets it. Things are fucked up. Whereas Willie, it's like, oh, this guy gets it, but he's telling you
Willie has that
right.
other.
Right.
I feel like he has the other outlook of like
he's got a different point of view of
the things will be okay kind of outlook, you know.
Things will be okay.
I don't know why I have this thing in my head of thinking of him where it's like the Velveteen Rabbit. Like as you age, you get shabby and soft and loose in the joints, and you know you get worn out, but you're still perfect. There's beauty in that, you know, and
Willie's a lot like that. That's why he's still around even now in the 90s.
You know, all your fur's been hugged off and you're loose in the joints and your eyes are falling out. You guys know what quote I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know.
For the Velveteen Rabbit, but he just has that to me that like no matter what, I will love him, and that's this album especially, even where you know like stuff that's going on in his life. That he's still somehow, like he's done bad stuff, but he's still a good person under all of this stuff that he's done, under all this living life and all these like temptations or whatever you want to call this. He's still a good person underneath all that. And that's to me why I have that regard of him still.
You guys, I keep talking about this song. I'll be right back. Sure. I have to be right back. I got this business meeting. I'll be right back.
A business meeting?
So we are in the middle of talking about Pretend I Never Happened. You know, once again, it comes from her point of view, and it's so sad to ask someone that you were so
like
in love
just
with.
Forget about me kind of thing.
That never happened, you know, that's crazy.
Such a thing to say.
Yeah.
And man, I was gonna look up this one lyric that just like it's like erase me from your mind. You will not want to remember any love as cold as mine. Yeah. It's like if she thinks he feels that way. It's like the beginning is all this like sweeter stuff of her still taking care of him, even though he's being a snake. And it's like you will not want to remember any love as cold as mine. Is to think you like convince yourself in any kind of breakup that like you turn it around on yourself.
Yeah.
After that. Yeah, it's so powerful.
She's got to think that way. She's got to say he's got to be cheating around because I'm so cold, because it's my fault. If I was loving and if I was this, this wouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
Dissolve.
But also I feel like there's that other part of it where it's like pretend I never happened, and it's like that like knife, but then at the same time that knife is like, oh, but it was like my fault because I was cold to you or whatever, you know, or if that was like, I just have so many thoughts in my head of like how people play things off when people are breaking up, and it's like, well, you were just a cold B word and like whatever, and it's like, no, you're just saying that to hurt someone else. You're just doing
but
that
then
to, like,
people blame themselves because that's another thing.
But you hear stuff.
It's hard to think, well, what did I do wrong?
You hear stuff from someone else.
Make things better.
Once someone tells you something so many times, you start to believe it too. Yeah, and that's that control. Yeah,
it's that mind warp that that the day before everything was okay, and now everything's gone to shit.
This one, oh man. And this one, like you said, with that beat to this one, how that like kind of breakbeat jazz almost, that it's not a normal setup in sound. It's a very different sounding. There's like a waffling kind of thing going. And then the this one with the mandolin and the pedal steel. Oh, there's something about a pedal steel that just breaks my heart into pieces.
Because it sounds
it's
like
all the old Hank Williams and stuff, where all those Hank Williams songs are so sad, and they have the sad pedal steel going, and that's this with the pedal steel and the mandolin. I'm like, oh my gosh.
That and the words themselves are just so heartbreaking.
I know.
So now, she gets up, she dusts herself off.
Yep.
Says, okay, this man, piece of crap.
Hey.
Talking about you, Ed.
And
she walks out proud. Instead of crawling, instead of running, she's walking out. She's gonna go fix herself. She goes back home to Mama's
house. She goes to Mama's house.
Back to Mama.
Because Mama is gonna make everything all right.
And Mama don't like that man who done her wrong.
and Mama's gonna let her sleep all day.
I love that. I love that. Mama's gonna let her sleep.
Because that woman is tired. Dog tired of everything that she's been doing. And then just to be left there.
I like this.
But it's through the sister's point of view.
This one's cool, because it's from her sister's point of view. I like that they switched it into this. That it's the sister, and then Mama and sister got your back. No matter what, they got your back.
This is like it comes out like it's in a dark place, but this is where it starts sidestepping into positivity.
So that's where I'm like, this one's leading into this is her freedom song. This is it's turning around. She's gonna live her damn life.
And she's gonna get support from her mom and from her sister.
Yep.
And that man is no good. You got to go back to the beer joint.
He done you wrong.
This is essentially her pick up the tempo.
This is her freedom song, and I love that it does that, where this is leading. You can see where it's headed, but this is her freedom song. This is her. Get it, girl.
And the lyrics, the insight, maybe at the time he didn't say or think the right things, but in retrospect, he had insight. He could empathize. So that's the thing about Willie, and that's why he's a good person. He has empathy. And he could understand her point of view. Only a man, he might be a wild card. He might be a bit of a scoundrel. He might mess around on her.
He still loves all of them.
But he understands them.
He understands why they couldn't put up with them.
I'll just gotta say, there's some boring guys that might be nice and they might never cheat on their women or whatever, but they might also never understand them. In Willie's defense, I'll say at very least, he understands his women. He understands them. He empathizes with them. He knows what they're thinking. He knows what not just his ex-wife, but also her sister. Mother, he knows, even though he's not there, he knows what he's saying. Because he can project that, and that's what makes him a great artist, and that's what makes
he knows that they're gonna slam him. They're gonna slam his ass.
He knows. He knows. It wasn't his first divorce too, but he knows. He knows.
Yeah, he knows what's up.
He knows what's going on.
He's been through a lot at this point too, because you think about. I would I can't remember if it was on Ken Burns' country music documentary or if it was on the Muscle Shoals doc, which both, shout out to him, fantastic documentaries. But they talk about him where he's not having a lot of success with any of his music, and he just goes down in the middle of Tennessee and Main Street, just lays down in the street to be hit by a car because he's just at his end. It's what is happening?
Did Waylon drag him out?
Yeah. But
that's the thing that's great. What I love about these guys, they're in their mid-40s.
Yeah, this is
I
love looking at these progressions of 40-year-old Willie to 50-year-old Willie to 60-year-old Willie, and you can see when you look through all the albums and you look at what his hair is doing and his beard's doing, you know what phase of his life he's in.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Picture a mid-40s artist breaking out.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
I mean, and I gotta say, I think that's a part of a big problem with a lot of the mainstream pop music these days. Is like they're not allowing the room for artists at a certain age to come through that might have a little more depth to their music. Like in the 70s, like they weren't like, who's this old guy singing songs, because let's be honest, to break through, that's kind of old, to be in your mid 40s breaking through, but they accepted Willie. They were like, hey, this guy's awesome. Better than the fucking kids. Let's listen to this guy.
Yeah, well, and like thinking about Willie, it's like he's lived so much life in that amount of time, and he's had so many experiences, and he's been around. I mean, he's trying with country music. He's been trying and trying for decades, and finally it's popping off for him. And it's one of those. I think he needed that much life experience, and he needed, certain people, like certain comedians, they don't break until they're 40 or whatever, and it's kind of late, and like, and it's like they needed that. And look at like Rodney Dangerfield or somebody like that. It's like. You're right. He needed that much life experience, and his time.
The weight of pain and being knocked down by life.
Yes, you need something to base. You need that to build character, and you need all that pain and stuff to write about. You need 2 divorces to write an album like this.
And that's why it sounds so authentic. Like today, you hear early 20-somethings trying to sing deep songs.
Well, that's like. The one I love to talk crap about is like Adele, and it's like, girl, you're 30 years old and you've had all this goddamn heartbreak. Like, you're obviously a monster. Like, why are you writing this shit? Like, you're 19 and you're 21 album, and it's like, what the hell have you been through? You haven't been through shit. Like, shut up. It's so annoying. I used to like her, and now I'm like over it. I'm like, what are you crying about? You have nothing to be that upset about.
Her voice is beautiful, and the
her voice is stunning. But I think like the content where it's like
the songs are co-written by somebody else,
and then
it kind of takes away that's something that you thought that she had, and it really wasn't.
It's like, how could your heart be that broken when you're 21? And then the last couple of albums, I'm like, they're stalker albums. Like, you just sound like a stalker.
And poor
her voice is stunning, but goddamn, it's like, let it go.
But the story,
get therapy.
You just don't buy it anymore.
No, that's why I got to the point that I was over it. I'm like, I can only listen to 3 albums of you crying about some dude that you couldn't have possibly been that obsessed with. I don't know.
I'm not big. I like her voice.
Her voice is stunning. Don't get me wrong. And like that first album I like, but then you listen to like 2 other albums of her crying about shit. Yeah. It's like, let it go. That's Taylor Swift. Like, let it go.
Oh yeah, I'm more of
yourself in these situations.
I'm more of a Lana Del Rey guy. And she grows as she's gotten older. That's the thing I like about Lana Del Rey.
You need the life experience.
Her music's getting more and more depth.
Who's that broad? There's a newer broad that I've been digging too.
I want to get into Lana Del Rey because
listen to the last album, Andy. The last album's amazing.
And that Sierra Farrell, that's somebody that I just started listening to recently, and that's somebody that like that female country voice that's like super soothing and beautiful. That check that out.
I'll check that out. I like Miranda. Yeah. I know some people can't stand her, but I actually like some of her stuff. I think she's done some good stuff. I like that double album she did a lot.
And also, you were talking about how Willie broke it in his 40s. It goes back to that song by the Bugles. A video killed the radio star.
Yep.
Kind of true, because now you're starting to. Pictures came and broke your heart, which is true, because then when videos came out, it was all about image. It wasn't about the song anymore.
No, you had to be pretty, or you had to have like a cool concept video or something.
It's true, but I still think even then people were a little more open-minded. I mean, you look at a guy like Phil Collins. Like, he was balding in his 30s.
He looked like Charlie Brown.
No one was bigger than fucking Phil Collins in the 80s. He was huge. I don't think
they were making cool music videos
now. But even in the 80s, people were still open-minded enough.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's like country music didn't get picked up as well with all the music videos. So like Phil Collins and like those guys were kind of making some cool music videos, but like country music's not getting picked up by MTV or VH1.
Like Garth Brooks, he's like, he's a chubby, average-looking guy, tucked in shirt and jeans. He looks kind of like a dork, but he wrote some catchy songs, and people like the songs. Like I don't know. I just think nowadays, the song is not as important as it used to be. Songwriting, that's the thing.
No, that's not. There's not many Willie Nelsons and Bob Dylans in my generation or the one following me. There's not.
Or like
there's a couple like Sturgill. I feel like Sturgill's up there.
I gotta listen to the Sturgill guy. I haven't listened. Tell me only.
I'll send you some stuff because Sturgill's like, oh my god, I love Sturgill so much. And then this new guy, I've been getting more into Charlie Crockett. Charlie Crockett, I think's good, and like Orville Peck, the guy with like the weird masks and stuff. I really like him. But those are a couple of the newer country guys that I feel like are on the level and not obviously like Willie or Dylan level singer-songwriters, but they're getting there. They're still younger.
I like the sound of Chris Stapleton. I like the sound.
Yeah, he's really good.
He's not a great songwriter,
voice.
But I like his sound.
His voice and the way he sounds are good. Yeah, I like him.
He's a good guitar player too.
Yeah.
And a band that I'm digging now, I know that I talk about them all the time, but it's Dawes.
I love Dawes.
Dawes.
Dawes, and then
I want to hear it.
I love Dawes. I love Deer Tick. That Middle Brother album is one of my favorite albums all time, and that was my pick.
Write authentic stuff that you buy.
Oh my gosh! And it's like,
I can see that happening to you.
Yeah.
They're good storytellers. So
his voice it's so gorgeous. He has a beautiful voice.
Deer Tick has that deep baritone.
Yeah, I like guys who sound like they drink gravel, and that's John McCauley and Deer Tick. His voice is like that raspy.
Oh, I like that. I like when it's people sound like
man. He's phenomenal. They're going on tour, so if you want to see Deer Tick at all, they're going to be on tour like all over the whole country in like the next couple months. But
that sounds great. Cool.
I'll check that out.
That Dawes and Deer Tick together with like the Delta Spirit guys. Oh my god, that Middle Brother. It's such a great album.
I just saw Dawes like last month for like the the sixth time.
They're so good. They're coming here, so I really want to see them. I've never seen them here, and they're coming. I want to go.
Yeah, you really should. The last time I saw them, the show was phenomenal. It was just fantastic.
So good.
But I'll send you some of their stuff as well.
Yeah, you gotta check them out. Yeah, I'll just blow up your phone with a bunch of different stuff
I love getting turned on news. You got me into a lot. You got me into old stuff anyway. You got me into that great psychedelic rock band.
Oh man, yeah. I mess around with way more old stuff than I do any new stuff. So like Dawes and Deer Tick being still extant bands is a rarity, but you
got me into Gandalf, and I was like deep in the Gandalf kick. There was like a month.
When I first heard that album,
I got so into that album.
Oh my god, that album blew my mind when I first heard it. And I was like, that cover of Nature Boy.
Oh, I love that song. Ooh,
blows your hair back.
Sexy song. I love that whole album. That's the thing. It's like sensual psychedelic.
Oh man, his voice in that.
Oh, beautiful. Wait, well, you know what, Andy? You got to bring us on to talk about that Gandalf album sometime.
That almost, when I did my pick, that almost was my pick, and then I ended up picking Middle Brother. But that was my like second choice. I wrote out a list of 5 to like be my album, and I thought more people probably would have known about Gandalf over Middle Brother, so I picked Middle Brother. But Gandalf, if we do a round robin and we get back to everyone and everyone gets to pick their second choice, that Gandalf album,
bring me on.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'll make sure.
We definitely are going to do another a round robin. Yeah. But I got a couple more people that I want.
Gotta get through everybody. Gotta get through everybody. But I finally ended up getting that like, I don't know, last year or the year before on vinyl, and then like put it on, and like, oh my god,
I don't have like vinyl. I would love to.
I don't even know how to explain that album being whatever. I don't know. We got to get back to Willie, but
let's get back to Willie. Let's get back. I will get back to Willie. Yeah, my pick. We're gonna wrap up the lady side of this album.
Yes.
With how, in parentheses. Normally, I don't like parentheses, but here I don't mind because they're it's grammatically correct.
It's correct.
How will I know I'm falling in love again? Now, again, this is all kind of a positive song because it's after she's gone out to the corner beer joint.
Yeah.
She's gotten fun. And now there's some new studs, there's some new guy in her life. And she's like, do I love this guy? I don't know. Or like, how do I know? Like, she's wondering to herself, like this man, this crazy Willie guy that was in her life for so long was so empowering in her life that she's like, how do I even know what love is after that fucking craziness?
Yeah.
And but she's got to open herself up to it. And this is like a song about like someone kind of letting herself open up to this idea that there's life post Willie, you know, like there's life after this guy. And, you know, I don't know yet, but like she's asking the question that will maybe eventually lead to the answer.
I may be making mistakes again. I can't talk anymore, but that lyric, I'm like, oh man, that hits hard. That questioning of like once you've been hurt like that, and then thinking about freaking going through all that shit again.
Yeah, so she thought she had the answer. I mean, she met in love, and now it just she's got to start over. And how can she trust it? Because she thought she knew the answer. She thought that she already had found love, and now she's got to start all over again.
Yeah,
you know, going out there, throwing herself out there.
This one gets
vulnerable, but not too vulnerable. Having her guard up a little bit more.
And it's a really simple song when you think about the lyrics, and like when they repeat the chorus over and that, and it's like, it's such a simple song, but this is such a powerful song that if you've ever been there to like been in a relationship, get out and try to get into another one, and you have all those questions of like,
because we've all been there. We've all
like, am I going to screw this all up again? And oh man, this is such a heavy hitter to end this side one. and then the flip, the total opposite on the flip. It's just so brilliant.
And then she might be thinking, am I going to be the side piece now? Does he already have someone? Is he just out here looking? Like Willie went out there looking, and is the same thing happening to me?
And think of how many people that happens to, that they have no idea. Like people who have like a whole entire wife and family, and stuff like that happens.
Dude, that's just crazy.
It blows my mind when you hear something like that, where it's like, oh, my dad had a secret family and no one knew about it.
How can you come home and act like nothing's happened during the day? And
my father.
Yeah.
My mother, I gotta just slip this in here. All right, don't worry, I won't go too long about this, but it fits in with this. Well, the thing is, I'm actually the product of infidelity, because my mother was the younger woman that my father left his first wife for, and he had a family. I have a half brother and half sister who I don't really know. I don't really know them as an adult, which is kind of sad, but essentially. It was always tough because it's kind of weird, because on one hand, you know, my father passed away a few years back, but he was a good father. He was always there for me. He was a good father, but I know he was a bad father to his first kids. Like, and that's like how Julian Lennon feels.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I was gonna literally say that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it's weird where
there's a lot of kids, like Johnny Cash's kids, and like a bunch of these famous guys. Well, and like probably Willie's first kids. He has 3 kids with.
It's always different.
With
like
Martha.
Lennon, his father was the prince. You know, his father was always there for him. But to Julian
He's there
Lennon,
for him.
It's a
he
weird
treats his worships his mother, and
because they were always there for them. Yeah. But with Julian, John left that kid, and he wasn't that. Paul McCartney was actually more of a father to him than John.
Ray Charles, there's so many of these guys that did that, like so many of these famous guys that like their first family is trash. That was like the practice family.
You don't even be famous. That's the thing. You could be just a charming Italian American drapery installer like my dad, but he was handsome and charming, and so he was still able to do that even without being famous. Yeah. He was able to have a family that left behind, and so it was always weird to me, because I knew he was a good father to me, but I always knew in the back of my brain that there were other 2 kids out there that he was a shitty father to. That he just abandoned, and a woman he abandoned for my mother, who he was madly in love with. So it was weird, but at the same time, that's just I don't know. But
I want to think it was the time period too, because so many people got married and had kids so young.
Well, yeah, because it was pushed.
Think about that's like you had that like I don't want to say obligation, but you had that.
Yeah, it was kind of
you were supposed to like you get out of school, you get married and have a family, and think of how stupid and young you are when you're like in your late teens, early 20s. You're an idiot. You are not fully formed in the brain.
Not ready for something like
that.
That kind of commitment to be shoved upon someone who's not even 30. And I think about that, and I think you have to forgive a lot of these people of things like that because they were not ready.
It was expected. Like he was from Philly, and it was like his first wife was like the traditional, just like washes the dishes, Italian woman cooks the pasta, have the kids, Philly. And then my mom came, who was more dynamic and like, hey, let's get out of Philly, let's live a different kind of life. And of course, that was very intoxicating to him. And it's like I can't fall. I'm not saying he did everything right, and I'm not saying he shouldn't have left his wife, and I'm glad he did because I wouldn't exist otherwise. And I like existing. But at the same time, he could have done better for his other kids. Yeah. But he was still just trying to figure it out. He was a flawed human being trying to figure it out himself.
Yeah. Right. And I think that's like cycles of damage of like all of our like baby boomer family and thinking about you have that continuing for so long through so many generations, and then he's trying to fix himself and he's screwed up and he's screwing up his kids by accident by just default. You're trying to figure out your life and
I definitely feel like I got the better end of it because even though my parents were young and crazy and fought a lot when I was younger, but I still had them. That's the thing. I had parents.
They were there.
Whereas the other kids, they just had like a bitter single mother. So it was just kind of. She didn't have her moment where she went out and got someone else. There was never am I falling in love again for her. Which was interesting. She stayed this like kind of bitter old Sicilian woman. Like, it was tough. So that was tough, but it's interesting. But that's the thing. This album brings out a lot of stuff.
But that's
that's what makes it.
She didn't have the "I'm falling in love again" question. She didn't try it out.
It does.
It's real. That's the thing. It doesn't matter. If you're a rich, famous country star. Or a drapery hanger. This is shit that people been through, and I experienced this.
Well, and I think that's how you can identify with this album so much. Anyone who's been through love and loss, like this guts you. There's a couple songs on here where I genuinely shed a tear that you could feel all those feelings and empathize with all those feelings for sure.
Yeah. Well, on that note, let's talk about one of the most euphoric songs. And it's a great thing about I love this album cover, even though it doesn't really represent the album entirely, but it does represent Bloody Mary Morning. It's nice red. I love red and black. Great color scheme. Bloody Mary Morning. Now, that's the song. That and Whiskey River. Like those were the songs that turned a rock and roller into a country guy. I like this fucking song. I love this song so much. I still love it. As soon as I hear that little banjo going, guitar, like it kind of charges you up.
How I said, this is the freedom song on the guy's side. This is pure getaway music. That banjo kicks on.
It's like
getaway music.
Smoking the Bandit. I represent back there.
100% getaway music.
Smoking the Bandit. But anyway, it has that vibe. He originally recorded it. There's an earlier version of the song, which is still really good. Not as great as this version, but it's a good version. Is on the album from 1970, Both Sides Now, which was when he was still in RCA, which also Elvis's label, RCA, and he was on that label. And it's a kind of more of a folk country sound, like when he still had kind of a folkier, kind of more authentic country sound. He was still clean shaven, and it's a good song. That song, like it's there, but this is where it really becomes the life. This is where it becomes outlaw country. That's the thing. Like
there's that flip. There's that flip. Even obviously like Shotgun Willie and that's that flip into
His guitar picking on here.
Yeah, you could
really
hear
shows
that
off.
he'd already kind of made that turn to outlaw country. And obviously, I'd say this is like the big outlaw country song on this album. And it's charging for another reason. This song is very personal on me too, also, because I had a period in my life, still do from time to time, but not quite as much as when I had a lot of heat after a big screenplay deal. I was bouncing between the East Coast and I was living in New York and I was flying into LA a lot. And now part of the lyric is how he's flying from LA to Houston.
Yep.
You know? And I would go to Texas sometimes for the layover, although normally I was I like direct flights. I don't really like having to do a layover usually. So anyway, normally I do like a 5-hour direct flight from the East Coast to the West Coast. And so there was a period in my life where, especially in my early days of screenwriting, when I was like kind of hustling and shit, I was on airplanes like every couple months, you know. So it wasn't quite to the degree that a touring act would, but more so than your average person. So I kind of started relating, and it's not a coincidence that this is around the same time period that I got into this shit, is because I started having a little bit of that lifestyle of being like, oh, I got to be on an airplane because I got a meeting in the morning here in LA. And, you know, I'm not a great flyer by nature. And I have a feeling Willie wasn't either, which is why he liked to have a bloody.
Probably not. Yeah, and he liked his tour buses and stuff.
You need to have a kind of drink before you get on this fucking thing that's going to shoot you up in the sky.
Well, I like that lyric in here where it's like, and the voice comes on to tell you it's going to be okay or whatever it was.
It betrays that Willie doesn't really like flying. You can connect it if you're a person that has this anxiety, because this song's a little about that. And it's just like, hey, you got the comforting voice. You're a little liquored in. That helps. You know, you hit the bar beforehand.
You need a Bloody Mary to level out. It's a Bloody Mary morning.
Bloody Mary morning, like just to get you to where you need to get to. And
get your head on straight and get on the plane.
This was my life for, I don't know, about 10 years. I had about 10 years where I was hopping on and off of planes, and I needed that fucking bloody, and literally it was a Bloody Mary. And it became one of my drinks. And I used to make my own Bloody Marys at home. I love Bloody Marys, but definitely it helped me get on some fucking planes, and it helped me get to where I need to get to. It's almost like you put yourself kind of in, this song has this vibe. You put yourself into like a giant slingshot. You're like, boom. And then you're just like where you need to be in a few hours. And this song has that and it's exciting. It's scary and exciting at the same time. And he's like, it's a perfect contrast to, it's his freedom song, but it's also a perfect like flip side to washing the dishes, because it's like this is the beginning of his side. Her side is it's very static. She's at home, she's washing the dishes, whereas he's flying off,
globetrotting.
He's globetrotting.
Like, this is his getaway song. This is and it's so funny.
Life. While she was washing his dishes, he was Bloody Mary morning.
And it's so funny, you can tell his, in like the character's personality, where you tell his personality, where it's like, woohoo, I'm out of here. And then it's saying like, she left me without warning. And it's like, I bet you there was a whole hell of a lot of warnings that you just ignored. You know,
he's busy. He had all these Bloody Mary mornings.
He's busy doing other stuff.
I will say it makes sense. As great as the first side is, I do think the second side's stronger, and that's probably partially because it's his.
This side, when we were gonna grade it, this side had more 5s on it for sure. But this, I don't know that. This is such a great song. This is such a great getaway song.
You were familiar with the song, Kate, but were you familiar with this specific version?
No, this one I feel like I've heard like a different recording of this before than this one. Is there was like a previous one you're saying, or I feel like I've heard a different version of it. Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I've probably heard both of them. You know, I've heard so much.
That's hard because I usually put stuff like, unless I'm really sitting down listening to an album, it's on in the background. So like, you've heard this song before, but you didn't really listen to the lyrics kind of thing. And I'm definitely one of those people, like, I can't be doing anything else. I have to sit and listen to the album, listen to the lyrics, and like take it all in. Because if I'm doing anything else, my brain is busy and it's like, it's absorbing, but it's not full retention going on.
Right. Yeah, with this song, like I said before, when I first heard it, I thought, oh, great, Houston's mentioned. This is a jam. The guitar.
Houston got your ears perked up. You're like, wait, now I'm
this
listening.
is a badass song. And then when I heard it, of course, years ago, within the album, you're like, wow. I mean, it's a whole different point of view.
Damn. Yeah. That's when I stopped and listened to this, and I was like, damn, that is a good getaway song.
Yeah,
I love it.
This is the man song.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a man.
Edwin's right. It's the perfect
It's
split
such a good song.
from track one, side one.
Yeah.
Side two, track one.
That's what I'm like. If you pin the
split.
songs against each other, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love hearing that
the contrast,
the process of like them going through their grief so differently. That hers is all grieving on the top end, and his is all grieving on the ass end of this. And it's like, oh my gosh, yeah. Then it dawns on him, it sets in, and then you're hearing it throughout these next few songs. It's like, ooh.
Yeah, and it makes you think of Tom Petty, now I'm free.
Yeah, the free falling, and it's like, nah, just wait, buddy. You're gonna hit the ground at one point. You're gonna be sorry at one point.
Again, when I first heard Free Falling, it never, being a teenager, you never grasped.
You don't have that experience to have it. Yeah, you don't have that experience to have.
And then when you get older, you're like, dude, yeah, now I get it. It wasn't just about the girl on the skateboard in the video. It's more. It's more than that. It's a lot more than that. So these songwriters just blow your mind throughout the years. So keep on going. Are we still talking about this track?
Just one last thing about the track.
Yeah,
this was a hit in the country charts. It was like a top 20 or 30.
Yeah, this came up to like 19, I think, and this whole album came up to like number 34 that year in the country charts. But I think this was a single, and the single got up there. The single was like 19 or something. I didn't write it down. Sometimes I write down
the biggest at the time, but not big enough for Atlanta.
Yeah, this was pretty high up on a single for Willie. So that was something that I remember when I read all this stuff about this. But
and then it goes into the reprise of Phases and Pages. That comes back. The motif's coming back. So that's the first tinge of regret. And then he comes back from his globetrotting, comes back home. And what do you know? There's no love around.
Oh, poor guy.
His wife has left him, and there's no love around. He's like looking around. He's like, "What the fuck? Where's my woman?" This is the "What the fuck? Where's my woman" song.
And why is my floor dirty? I don't understand.
I love where it's like she left me without warning, and it's like, no, she didn't, man.
Without warning.
I promise you, there were a lot of warnings, and there was all that lipstick on the collar. I wonder why she left.
But yeah, so it's about the first of a string of ballads. But this is more about almost like a perplexity and looking around kind of song. This is the moment where you come back home and she's not there, and you're trying to. It's the processing. This is the processing moment after you were out galloping, around the world. And it's a beautiful song.
Also the introduction of the of an orchestra finally being put into country.
Very understated, very produced in an understated way. Yeah, I love the production. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think it's fantastic too.
It's very understated. I like how the strings are produced. It's similar to how Gordon Lightfoot and Bob Dylan would sometimes have their strings produced.
You would have that really subtle. Yeah,
very subtle.
Really helps in the background. It was done in 2 days. There was no overthinking. It was just, let's do this.
No, boom, and that's like done. Yeah, having a sessions band, you're knocking it out. 2 days, you have a whole album. Is just
like the Beatles used to do back in the day. Boom, boom, boom.
But that's how all these great artists used to do.
That's all the the Wrecking Crew, all the Wall of Sound, and all those. Like you get that sessions band, and they're tight, and they just freaking knock it out. Boom, 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 boom.
And they don't have years or months to overthink shit.
No, and they're professional. They're like, obviously, like these guys are professionals, but there's a difference between professionals that are drinking and smoking in the studio and people who are like, we're here to get shit done and we got to get this cracked out and we're getting paid and leaving and starting the next album.
Work together.
Yeah, we get paid per album. We're getting this shit done now.
Yeah.
So
We
that's
gotta
the
hit the
difference.
road, man. We
Yeah.
gotta go
Yeah.
make some money out on the road with these songs. Let's go.
Yep.
And what do you think, Kate, of No Love Around?
There's two different lyrics in here that I was like, damn, I love this so much. So that I felt my head spinning round and round. And Lord, I poured my dreams and drank them down. No, there weren't no love. It is like, oh my gosh. Yeah. I could just like tall glass of whiskey on the rocks. You're pouring your dreams into that and then you're drinking them down. And oh, so good. I don't know. Just Willie gets me. Like I said, a million times before this on a ton of other pods that we've all done, there's something that always leads me back, and that's just him. Yeah.
Speaking the truth and speaking for the common man and woman, same thing. That's what Willie does.
It's just real.
It's with simple words.
Yep. And it's not like fluffed up. There's no facade. There's no veneer across anything that he's talking about. He's talking about shit that's happening to him. He's talking shit that's happened to any of us. Like he's such a real. He's like, for lack of a better term and to not sound so eloquent, he's a real ass dude. He like lays it out there. That's just what I love with him, that there's not the no facade, and he's okay to pour that all out to everyone. Like, all his backstory, all these different things that have happened to him. He's not hiding behind like, a bunch of these other guys. There's like that wall and that like the Beatles weren't allowed to let people know they were married, and like Jerry Lee, when it was like, oh, he's married to his little baby cousin, and they had all this hiding stuff, and it's like Willie never had any of this stuff hidden at all. He's always been,
well, you can hear it in the songs,
and you hear it 100%. You're hearing it in all these songs. I mean, it's just so
that when Dylan, Neil, and Willie, and to a lesser degree Mellencamp, got together for to do Farm Aid and do these benefits every year. Well, of course they got along together because they were realists.
They've all been through similar shit. Yeah, and they don't have that. There's that weird like pride thing of like, you don't want anyone to know your dirty laundry, and they are not like that at all. There's that generation of like all the straight laced people. Like, you didn't know their dirty laundry. You didn't know that they were divorced. They got divorced and then they moved to a different city and had a different family, or like all the things of like guys being like closeted gay and they have their wife and children. That's the cover and that. Like, that was that time, like leading out from obviously like the late 50s, 60s. And then you're hearing all this stuff of all these people where it's like, oh, well, they were leading a very different life than they let on. And like, Willie never covered up.
Oh yeah, Willie's life.
No,
all you gotta do is listen to this album.
And he would do interviews, and he like obviously his music, but he was super open about all this stuff going on in his life, and that's like, I give anyone credit when they don't care about, like, obviously he's getting shabbier here, his hair is getting longer, his beard's growing out, and he's like, what, you can see it. You guys know what I'm talking about, but he's he's so authentic. Even though he's like obviously not the perfect person, he's had his like downfalls and different things in his life. He's always been authentic, and it's always, I don't know. I'm gonna shut up, but
everything you're saying. He used to be the butt of jokes because of the IRS.
Yeah. Well, and they still talk.
Fuck the government. Why would you pay?
I know.
Corrupt warmonger, fucking government money so that they can kill people in other places.
And he's like all the tax evasion and stuff, and like it's funny because they still make light of it because they had like a Willie Nelson like Ben and Jerry's flavor, and I remember on Colbert's like, what, he got a flavor before me? What is it, like hash and shredded tax forms? This is just like 5 years ago, so I'm like, I think it's so funny that it's still
one thing that makes a hero, a folk hero out of Willie Nelson is that he didn't pay his taxes.
It's okay to still take stabs at him. He thinks that kind of stuff's funny
there's
too.
a few of these, they're folk heroes in my opinion, because fuck the government. That's all I'm saying.
It's pretty much I work. It's my money, don't fuck with me.
Hey, if
Yeah.
they weren't, hey, if they were using the money, I don't want to go off on a political rant. If they were spending the money to help cure cancer and help,
if you knew it wasn't like murdering
the homeless and
murdering
like
little
that,
poor kids in a different country, then you'd feel a little bit better
yeah,
about
they use it literally to bomb other countries and other wars.
I love that.
Fuck them.
Oh my god, what's that Pete Seeger song where it's like, "What did you learn in school today, dear little boy of mine?" And it's yeah, I don't know. You guys know it's just something.
I'll just say what Mark Twain said: "You can love the country, but not the government." You know, that's the thing. You know, Willie loves America.
Yeah,
Willie is America. Willie is
America.
Like,
but the
Willie
US
is one of the most Americana people you can imagine, and he is like. That's why I was like, they need
like that.
They need to preserve him and put him in like the Smithsonian or something.
He is American.
Oh my god, him and Trigger, man, that's Americana to the core. Like what song's more American than freaking On the Road Again? Like that. Yeah. It just is like, oh man, that's America, like in the.
It's not the government. That's all I said. There's two different things.
Two separate. It's two separate entities. It is, and that's like thinking of like On the Road Again is like our version of like what's the Woody Guthrie? This land is your land. Yeah, like how is this land is your land is not the national anthem? I don't understand, but it's like it's that this generation's version of that where it's like just gets you, you know, and it's in your entire essence of your being born from here. Somehow it's intrinsic in your brain to love that and appreciate that song.
Yeah, Bloody Mary Morning could also be a good anthem to bring it back because it's
our freedom song.
It's taking us from LA to Houston, you know, taking us from a blue state to a red state.
There you go.
And he's having a time. Like Willie's that guy to kind of cross over. That's the thing, you know. Regardless of politics, let me tell you something about Willie Nelson. You could go anywhere, and
everyone loves him.
Yeah, exactly. You could talk about Willie Nelson.
He is a unifying character in this play of ours. He is definitely one that no matter what side you're on, you can
both sides. Yeah,
bring people together. Fucking Willie Nelson.
He is like that was that crazy show when I was talking about seeing him last summer, and it's like it's me and my fiance, and like we're the one like lame as hell, and then we're seated right in the middle of an entire huge group of Hell's Angels. And it's like Hell's Angels are there for Willie, we're there for Willie, there's like some 80-year-old people, there's people smoking crack, there's people all walks of life are there to see Willie.
And that's when Kim became a crackhead.
Oh my god, yeah.
Just a little bit, just a nip of the crack. But do you want to say anything else, Andy, about No Love Around before you move on to the next one?
No. Let's go ahead and move on to I Still Can't Believe You're Gone.
He's still processing.
Wait.
That's the thing about man. It takes a while. He's still looking around. At the stacks of dishes.
I
think this one's such an interesting one where it's like I Still Can't Believe You're Gone, where it's that like she put up with your BS so long that it just blows your mind that she finally had enough, kind of thing.
To be fair, he's fucking Willie Nelson. He's a very charming country singer.
He is adorable. He is adorable, obviously.
I'm not a basic bro, you know.
Hey, this isn't really about Willie. Remember, he said that. It's not about his life.
But there's only so much adorability that a woman's going to take.
Yes.
You know,
we can only tolerate
that threshold yet. He did not know that.
Just like a man being married to a psychotic woman, there's only so much stuff that you can put up with.
But Judge, she's beautiful. Yeah, but she's also nuts.
She is. She stabbed me in my sleep. Yeah, there's a lot of oh my gosh, people are so interesting. Like just thinking about obviously like my job, I deal with people all the time, and you see a lot of sad things, you see a lot of like humanity because of dealing in veterinary medicine, and people don't have money and they don't have this, and then you see people who could like they would do anything to help their pet and like sell things of theirs and just go through hell to help their animal. And like this range and scope of people's psyches that you can see through doing a job like mine. And like you're in pharmacy and you're doing the screenwriting, you obviously study humanity and the human condition doing screenwriting like that. Getting a taste of this and this album really brings that all in too, where you have these two people that are just so split down the middle now from what they were. It's such a good concept album. I just love the way he pulls this off.
Yeah. And what do you think about
this?
I Still Can't Believe You're Gone.
This is his realization song. This is when it dawns on him. Finally, it's set in all the way. It's his realization song. Because then I wrote, I draw stuff, I doodle on everything. So I drew a little broken heart and I put realization song. And then on the next track, when we get into like, we can wait to get there. But what I wrote, it's not supposed to be this way. I said, this is his regret song. This is where he really regrets what has happened.
Really sinks in.
Yes, that's where it's like this. He realizes it in this track, and it's like, oh, like I still can't believe you're gone. But then it has like, but I'll take it till I'm strong, that kind of thing. And yeah, I don't know. This is where it's really setting in, and then the regret comes in the next track. And I love how he put this together. It's so brilliant.
The sequencing's perfect. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Before we get to next track, Andy, because it sounds like me and Kate are gonna have a lot to say about the next track. But what do you think of I Still Can't Believe You're Gone?
Oh, well, the same, again, it's following side one as well as what she was going through. She was on the upswing and he was on the downswing. Mm-hmm. She was going to go get stronger with her mom. He's alone. And he's wondering why am I alone? What these are the mistakes that I've made that led me here. And her on the flip side, I'm going to make better decisions.
Yep.
I'm not going to fall for men like that anymore.
I love how each of these progress on each side. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's like one side is up and one side is down.
Oh yeah, she's like, she's coming up, and he is in a nosedive. That plane he's taking to Houston.
That dude's going down that bottle like nobody's business.
Yeah, and I get it. I mean, oh my gosh, that feeling of like,
yeah. So it's the perfect.
This hits hard, that feeling of someone being gone like that.
And I just want to say, Edwin, this was a surprise album that you chose. I was like, wow.
This is a sleeper album. This is one of those that...
Let's break this album down. And that's exactly what we're doing. And I love it.
That's one of the reasons I thought of it. When you told me, you said pick an album.
Yeah.
I had three criterions. The first was I actually had a vinyl copy of it. It's the Black Spinner Circle. So I thought I should actually have a vinyl copy.
Need to have it. Yep.
Second was that I generally love it. It's like one of my favorite albums. So that would check. The third was that it'd be an interesting thing to talk about. So and
you picked a fantastic one because, like I said, I feel like this is such a sleeper album of his that as I said a couple times already, that I'm like I never really listen to this soup to nuts and
and you're a Willie fan, but to me, that's
oh my gosh,
like you have to listen to this if you're a Willie fan. It's like
you can shed a tear in your beer, like old Hank song, but that like this one, I don't know, this one just hit me really hard, like thinking about different times or like breakups and different ups and downs in a relationship. And I was thinking about even in a long-term relationship, like I've been in a very long-term relationship, and that people say like unconditional love thing, and it's like, no, you're two adults, there's conditions, there's terms and conditions that apply, like so there's still a lot of ups and downs regardless of what kind of relationship you're in. And even like Andy said, like friendships and things, like terms and conditions apply. I can love you unconditionally, but I could love myself enough to know I deserve respect.
But there's so many times that
ultimately everyone loves themselves the most.
Yeah.
No matter what you say.
But the only way to be in a good, healthy relationship is to have that base of like, love and self-respect, because if you're in a relationship where you have no self-respect and you have no love for yourself, and you're going to be in a really shitty abusive relationship and you get walked on. And like, it's taken me a long time. I'm one of those people pleasers. I'm a yes woman, yes man, and I in the last like 5 years even, I've had to learn so much about how I need to grow a spine, because I get taken advantage of so much. And I think about this kind of thing where it's like, I could really feel for the broad in this story, that it's like she loves this guy and she is trying so hard, and there's just a point where you're like, I've had enough, and it's not fair to yourself. Like, you cannot let yourself be miserable forever because of some man that you love. Like, you just gotta let it go,
I can just tell you, it does sometimes happen the other way.
It does. No, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, just in learning these, like, in humanity, and learning about like all the things I said, how I deal with people so much, and you see these things. Like, we obviously deal with people and their pets and divorces and things, and you'll have someone come in and be like, neither one of us can agree who gets the dog, so we're just going to put it down. And it's like, we're not going to do that because you are both monsters, and that's that
people have actually thought of that before.
Oh, we've had that shit happen multiple times, that people do that they'll come in and be like, yeah, neither one of us can agree who gets them, so we're going to put them to sleep. And it's like,
that's hard.
People are living monsters. It is not like a car. It is a freaking living animal. People are horrible. So that's what I mean about seeing these like sides of society. And then you have that like,
that's why Willie Nelson didn't pay his taxes. He was like, people are horrible, and the government run by people.
Willie rescued like 70 wild horses.
Yeah, he's like, if animals run the government, maybe I would pay my taxes. But it's fucking people.
If I could write off all my animals on my taxes, I would be paying them.
People can learn a lot from animals.
But it definitely happens on the other side, on the guy's side, because I've seen a few of my guy friends who are like goddamn saints, and the person they're with, like I said, you meet some psychotic woman and it like ruins their entire life. Yeah. You get to see it all, man. It's wild.
I love this conversation. See this, Andy is like, oh, I picked a good one here.
Yeah, we're getting all spiced up on this one.
Is that most of the time when we do this, we go track by track, we talk about the songs, but the songs are so different from anything else. There's so much.
And this one,
so emotional.
This one strikes up a lot of emotion, and this one
because we can all relate in so many different ways. That's why this album is so important.
Everyone's been there and felt these feelings. And then also, like I said, every time I listened to this, I heard something different that reminded me of a different story or a different friend of mine or character or myself. And listening to this, that I'm like, oh my gosh, this hits on so many levels that it's just it's a phenomenal album. I mean, it just really... It gets you. It gets all the emotions going.
You like this album, Kate? You like it?
It's a good one, man. I really... It was a premium pick.
Now I want to hear this for Waylon Jennings Part 2.
I just touched upon the role Waylon. Yeah. Okay, now let's get into one of
Willie
the
big guns. We haven't even got this killer too.
Great. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna get into one of the.
All right, go for it. We gotta go.
We gotta get this next song. The album, in my opinion. I mean, this thing, the album's kind of cooking, and then it really kicks in with these last 3 songs, I think.
This one like kicks you in the gut.
Oh like, yeah, this is probably my 4th favorite song on the album. It's pretty high. I love this song.
Yeah,
but one of his greatest ballads. It's not supposed to be that way. Oh man, can I?
Just the title alone. Just the title alone again.
That's the thing. Yeah, he's like that. Where just the title, like a great poet. Just the title, one line, like a great poet. One line tells you everything you need to know. But yet the song colors the rest in. It's a beautiful song. It's one of his greatest songs. It's an amazing song. It is one of the songs that Waylon also covered, and his version's great. But this version's the best in my opinion. And it's amazing. The lyrics, Willie singing is amazing on it, and this is one I really related to probably the most, especially after my divorce. But even before, I kind of, like I said, I felt like I had a premonition of it, like even before I was married, because I connected to the song immediately. And then like 10 years later, I heard the song. It was like, oh yeah, that's the thing. I was like, there was a premonition here. But it's this song. Now this is the realization. This is the realization song when it really clicks for him what happened. And it's what Kate said about regret settling in.
This is his regret song.
This is in a lot of ways, this is the heart of the album, because this is where like, I get it. I get how I fucked up.
I love this one of just, you're supposed to know I love you.
Yeah.
And it's like, sometimes people need to freaking hear that. They need you to tell them that.
You notice
you're
too
supposed to know I love you.
Yeah, it is in the verses.
Oh my gosh, this one.
He wants to control her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then the second verse, it's control her. So you actually hear it with very subtle, and this just shows you a level of sophistication in his lyric writing. There's a subtle progression of empathy where at first he's a little defensive, he's a little,
yeah, you can tell he's like,
he wants to control her. And the second verse, it's like that's already gone. He never. But then it's that line again. Actually,
then it turns around into that like, I can't be there to console you.
Yeah, I can't. Empathy starts settling in.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
This second side leads to the man that can write the first side. That's the thing, and this is where he journeys. You actually hear the journey in the song of a man that is initially defensive and initially like, hey, what the fuck? Why can't I just make you do what I want you to do? Yeah, but by the time we get to the second verse, he's already grown.
It's turned around.
And he's already realized like, what he's feeling and how he's projecting. And then by the end, it's finally acceptance of what
this is those things of mourning, like actual death mourning someone where it's like anger, denial, and he goes through these steps, and you hear it in this song too.
I got a couple of years on you, Kate, so I've already been through death and divorce. So I've been through this shit, and I can tell you, I'm sure Andy's.
But you hear it all coming through this song that he has all those steps and like the different mourning things that they say.
There's all these different phases, and that's the thing. And I can tell you from experience, a divorce and death is very similar. The grieving process is very similar.
Well, that relationship died. I mean, that to me, anything, friendship, whatever, I feel like any of the finality of it, just like a regular physical death is definitely, because I've been there with like a lot of friendships and things and dealing with that. How I said I finally grew a spine and you have to break up with someone that way. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of levels of processing, and not even necessarily that you can process it all the way through, because you cycle back through a lot of those emotions too.
Yeah, and sometimes you just have to grow up and just walk away. Sometimes you just have to walk away from different situations and let whatever happen, and let it be the past and just walk away.
Yeah.
Right. Let them tell their story the way they're going to tell it. And you got to just.
It seems like Willie's doing that in this song, going, all right.
Oh my gosh,
it's over. I mean, now, and again, I go back to the flip side of it. I put this in contrast with Pretend I Never Happened.
Yeah.
And with his version,
this is the like antithesis, not the antithesis, but this is like the
thesis.
This is the the other side of it.
This is the answer to
this
it
is
all. This is the acceptance of her leaving finally.
Yeah.
And recognizing his part in it and why she left. And it's a song about regret. Frank Sinatra, might have not only had a few regrets.
Oh my gosh.
Willie's got a few more.
Some of Frank's breakup songs.
Yeah.
Oh, like.
Well, especially after Ava Gardner. Yeah,
Oh man, but this is on that level of that, like.
Oh yeah, this is what I love. Like my favorite Sinatra albums are what Sinatra called the suicide albums.
Yeah.
Only Lonely in the Wee Hours. You know,
oh my God.
Where Are You? Like that really sad maudlin one.
When those like, you know who else is a freaking murderer and has like the most stunning voice and the most devastating songs like that? It's like Roy Orbison.
Oh, beautiful.
And his Only the Lonely. And man, I love Roy so much. But that, like, he could break your heart so bad that he is the voice of an angel. And like, that's, oh my gosh.
But the next track, Heaven and Hell, is even
good segue.
Yeah. Andy's good at keeping us on track.
It's such a short song.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I say about it. Sometimes you listen to a song and you wish it was a little bit longer, but maybe that's part of its magic.
Hey, does it remind you of Alice's Restaurant the way it starts? Like the first bar? Like
I can see that. That's funny. I can see
Alice's Restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
But also, it shows confusion. It shows confusion on his part.
Well, he's recognizing
where to go.
But listen, but he is aware. There is an awareness here, though. He's aware, and again, this is a step that you go through after a relationship. Maybe it could be a marriage, but like Kate was saying, could be a friendship or just a long-term romantic relationship. Yeah. Regardless, what you do is you play everything back in your head again, and you do that, and you go, well, like sometimes it was heaven, sometimes it's hell, and you realize, there's this person that when it was good, it was great. There was nothing better in it. But when it was bad, it was really fucking bad. It was I'd say that really, at least for me personally, really rings true. I'm sure it would ring true for a lot of people. And it's one of the greatest songs on the album. It's one of the greatest songs ever written, in my opinion.
And it's less than 2 minutes.
Less than 2 minutes.
And
that's this whole thing.
I feel like this could have been like the only thing I'll say about if he added a minute, I feel like this could have been a single as well. I feel like this is a very catchy melodic song. It has a good hook. I feel like he almost shortchanged it a little bit by making it like so short.
Like just a little insert.
Yeah, I feel like it could have been like a good follow-up single to Bloody Mary Warning. And
it should have been the B-side on that. Yeah. What was the B-side on that, I wonder, when they did a 45?
It was released twice.
I
don't know what
I don't remember reading when obviously it's released as a single, but then you're like, what's the B-side on the 45?
I don't know what the B-side.
I don't know what it was, but that
is some song called After the Fire Is Gone, which I'm gonna have to check out. But
maybe
that was the 74 version. I'll have to check that out. Actually, I don't know what that is.
I don't know. Yeah, that's out of all the reading. I can't think of anything that was on the B-side on that single that dropped.
But I mean, you guys with me though? I feel like Heaven and Hell could have been maybe a single or a prominent B-side. I feel like
even if it just had a longer.
Yeah, I feel like it should have been a little longer because I feel like
the instrumental, even if the instrumental on the middle, like if they busted out the instrumental longer, I could have seen
out a little bit.
Yeah,
and it is also one of the songs Waylon covered as well, but he kept his version short as well. But it's a great song. It's really catchy. It's memorable. It's him still kind of wrestling as the thing. He needs longer to process than the woman.
He's getting out of the funk, though.
Yeah, it's only
he's getting out of the last song. He's coming out of the funk. You can tell this is like. Yeah, but this is the turnaround on his part. This is coming out of it.
Yeah, because he's realizing, it was great, but it also was kind of shitty too. So that's the song, him playing it out. But wonderful melody, wonderful hook, wonderful lyrics. This is why he is one of the great American songwriters of the 20th century.
I love Willie so much.
Yeah.
So Willie's just so... He's magical.
Yeah. So got anything else to say? Or are we going right to the big finale?
Yeah, big finale.
Well, we hit, of course, we have a repeat of
Phases,
stages, back. We recall where we, started off.
Yeah. I love that it circles back.
And then we got so good. Pick up the tempo. One of his classic Willie song, great song. This is like he came to it a little bit later, and this is his ending, but this is kind of in a way his like down at the corner beer joint. Like he is
This
finally
is his down at the corner beer joint.
He's like, okay, I'm dusting myself off. It took me a little bit longer to process because it was my fault and I was.
When you can tell it's like he's out partying. People telling me I'm living too fast.
Yeah,
but that's me. That's
and that's why this album, like I said, like with and both point and like I said, I'm going to talk about Blood on the Tracks when I do my Bob Dylan video. But what I'm saying is that album ends on a more melancholy, wistful note, whereas this album, this amazing masterpiece, ends on a upbeat note. That's why I said, like, I don't really, by the end of Phases and Stages, it didn't make me feel bad while I was going through what I was going through. It uplifted me and made me feel like I'll get through it.
You have that hopefulness at the end of this.
Yeah. And it's that old fuck it. That's who I am.
That's who I am. I'm gonna go to the honky tonk. I'm gonna have fun.
He's gonna have fun. He's moving on.
Well, and he's back into it again.
I love this that
like it, but oh well,
But little they see me that they're thoughts of me as my savior. So it's like you can pull yourself out of the shit. He's getting there. He's got it where he's pulling himself out of it. You see me as my savior. I love that. That's so good.
There is a little tinge of bittersweetness because you do have a very slight reprise of Faces and Stages.
Yeah.
It's very quick and it fades out very quickly, so it's almost like a little whisper of regret at the end.
I love how that circles back though, but that's like obviously with a divorce or any kind of breakup, it's always going to be on your mind, but you just have to work past it, and there's so much other stuff that's good in your life to.
Yeah, but that's the only time on this album that Phases and Stages comes out twice.
Yeah.
On the same track.
Yeah. It makes sense because it's wrapping up.
And it's a perfect ending. It just is.
Yeah. And that's also a song he would play live a lot. And this is one of those songs too that if you took away the Phases and Stages could have also been a single and could stand on its own. It's just a really catchy, fun, honky-tonk song.
Yeah,
but this was in the context of the album, like Bloody Mary Morning, like a lot of these other songs, in the context of the album, it becomes this cathartic thing. It becomes a cathartic experience of moving on with your life. And this is why this is one of the greatest albums ever recorded, in my opinion, because not only it's just crackerjack songwriting, but as a whole, this is the whole idea of what an album does. As an album, it tells a story, it takes you somewhere, you go through a journey, you experience it. Then at the end, there's this cathartic moment, and it reflects life, and that's what great art does.
Yeah.
And that's, in my opinion, it's the greatest country album ever recorded because of that. Because as much as I love a lot of country music, I can't think of one single country album that reflects life, or at least the life I've led, as much as this album. And so I always go back to it. And it's an album that even before I was a scrappy middle-aged divorced guy like Willie Nelson, even before, I love this album.
Before you're going to write your Phases and Stages.
Yeah. Like now I'm actually I've been through this. I've been through the Phases and Stages. So now I've been through the other side of it. I was like, my younger self was right. This album is awesome.
Now you're going to write your greatest screenplay. You just had to go through all this bullshit to get there. It'll be all right.
That's what.
I love this lyric in here where it's like, and he's living too fast, and they say it can't last too much longer. And it's like, well, look at him now. He's 90 years old. 90 years old.
This is like the album you record before you become the biggest country star of all time. Come on, let's face it.
So
He's the biggest country star of all time. No one's
one of the biggest, longest lasting, and most
in the grand scheme of things. Who's better? Him and Dolly Parton, pretty much.
Yeah.
But this trilogy, I like to call it a trilogy. The Shotgun Willie, Phases, Stages.
This and Redheaded Stranger. Like, it's such a...
These three are just...
To bust those out in 3 years.
Yeah.
It's like...
It's a great period.
It's just so good.
Because then he becomes so celebrated.
It's his peak.
Yeah.
This is... Yeah, I could agree with that. And then, like, later on down the road when he...
Really.
like his most popular album, Stardust, and obviously like Redheaded Stranger's way up there. But I think seeing this peak of these 3 albums together, and then maybe you could call Stardust like his Renaissance or something. But it's, how do you beat these 3 albums in a row in 3 years? It's so good.
Yeah,
and that's I want to go.
Because Stardust is a lot of covers. So,
Stardust is a lot of covers, singer, and that's like
But as a songwriter,
which one do I have? That like Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Hang on, I had one I listened to the other day that was a bunch of covers that I was like, God damn, that's
that's
good.
Stardust. Stardust is going
to
be
one. This What a Wonderful World is a bunch of covers that he did, but man, is that it's so good, and I love this phase of Willie. This like late 50s going into his 60s Willie.
I mean, he sang great covers, and that's where he became Elvis or Sinatra. He became just a great voice. But in terms of a songwriter, I feel that this mid-70s period, those 3 albums, like Andy was saying, those
Shotgun Phases, Redheaded, these were like...
That's his peak as a songwriter. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, and he did some great stuff. I mean, even afterwards as a songwriter, you know. Right. But
it wasn't consistent.
That's his peak. Those
he's
3
definitely
albums
stayed consistent in how well he can write a song, and he's another one. Like the reason why I love John Prine so much is someone who could make you laugh and absolutely rip your heart out of your chest and make you cry in the same album, even the same song. Sometimes even the same song, and that's a huge thing of why I love and like have so much regard for him, because he's just so talented at getting all those emotions out throughout.
Before my computer, because it's unplugged, it's going to go out in about 10 minutes. So I want to show this just in case. I'll hang around, but just in case I suddenly go off. Okay, this is the album we've been alluding to and talking about a lot this whole time. Waylon Jennings. Waylon this time. Okay, amazing album. My favorite Waylon album. He did a lot of great albums in the 70s, but this is my personal favorite. This came out the same year as this album, shortly after this album, and it has like half the songs that are on this album. Now, even though I do prefer
Willie's versions,
this is the thing: the songs that aren't the songs from this album are amazing, and some of my favorite, all my favorite like Waylon songs. Of course, the title track. This time, I think that's like one of the greatest Waylon Jennings songs. Amazing song, and that's the song that broke him in. Waylon actually broke a little bit bigger, fast, sooner than Willie. Like Willie had some more moderate popularity.
And I feel like Waylon's the type of guy that how he comes across and how his career was, he like kicks the gate open.
Yeah, he's a little more the alpha. He's a little more macho.
Yeah, he just comes at it full force, and that's how it came.
This is really the album that really kickstarted the outlaw country music, because this time was a huge country hit, and so like Willie kind of creaked the door open, and then fucking Waylon kicked it open with this album, and you also got. He does a version of Pick Up the Tempo, which is really great. Slow, rolling, low, which I love. I love that song.
He has a cover of It's Not Supposed to Be That Way, right? Yep. That Waylon does that. And that one, I don't know, something about Waylon's voice doing that too. I don't know. He's just, I love Waylon's voice so much.
I love his voice. Heaven, Hell.
He has that deep.
Mona. So many great songs on this. Yeah, and he is my favorite country singer overall. So definitely recommend this time. Have you listened to the whole album, Kate?
Probably at one time, but I don't know. I'm gonna revisit it.
I gotta have on. You had a great run. This is the thing about
I go through these like country kicks where I just go album to album to album, and like, oh, I haven't listened to so and so, and then I go through either all of their discography, depending, like obviously Willie's discography is a daunting task, but it'll be accomplished one day. Right. But yeah, I want to do Waylon, and the other one I was thinking of recently, I want to do Tom T. Hall, because I get on a kick with a song, and then that leads me into listening to like a whole album or a whole discography, depending on how many albums it is. But Tom T. Hall, I've had like this last few weeks, I've been obsessed with That's How I Got to Memphis, and that Charlie Crockett guy that I was talking about, that newer country guy.
Yeah.
He sounds old, but he has a nice cover of that. And I just like, man, I love Tom T. Hall so much, so I need to go through. But that Waylon, I want to go on another thing because I have a lot of these Willie and Waylon, and I'll burn through all those. And I'm like, I need to go on a just Waylon one because I haven't done
I think
that.
you'd like a lot of stuff. So mid 70s, he had a great run of albums. This time,
his voice is so good.
Heroes,
yep,
amazing.
I have Honky Tonk Heroes, and I have what's the other one with the four of them, like the Outlaws, and there's a different Outlaws with a broad on it.
The Highwaymen.
That, yeah.
Culture.
Yeah.
It's Outlaws is with the broad, Highwaymen's the four of them.
Yeah, so, with Johnny.
Yeah, yep. See, Al just said it actually wanted Outlaws.
And what you also
so
hold on, I'm gonna show you.
I have a bunch of that stuff.
So the Highwayman is Willie, Johnny, and Chris.
Yes.
You also need, in addition to Honky Tonk Heroes, you need the Rambling Man.
Yes.
Amazing
so I have
album.
that. I don't have that first one you held up, so I need to get that. So Rambling Man.
This time you definitely should have. You should have Rambling Man if you don't have it. Also, Dream in My Dream.
And then I have that Waylon.
Album.
Which one is it? Waylon one with just the W. Which one's that? Just the black cover with the big W on it. I have that. And I'm trying to think of what other Waylon albums. And I have a couple I have a couple Waylon and Willie different ones. And I think I have is there like a Waylon does Johnny Paycheck or one where they're together?
This one, Music Man's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta burn through all those.
Jimmy James Schwartz, thank you for this. He gave me this one. But
I gotta look. Which one did you say you don't have Waylon and Willie one or two?
I don't have the first one. All right. Yeah, I'd love to have that.
I'll write down a note. If I find it, I'll give it to you because that's
my favorite one of their collaboration.
Ask Andy if you have something you want and you tell me and I have it, I'll just give it to you.
Yes. That's how I got the.
I still got a thing, Andy. I still got a. What do I have? An Elvis Costello. Yeah, I gotta mail you. I gotta make you a box. I haven't done a box for you in a while, but I'm writing down. I'll get it if I can find it. You got it.
But yeah, Al, that compilation, the Outlaws one.
Yeah, the Outlaws one's great, and that's the other one, that Highwaymen one.
Yeah, that Outlaws one. I found it last month, but I haven't heard it yet. It's here on my.
It has Waylon and Jesse Coulter.
All these
Vicious Minds. There's a lot of good stuff in it.
Man. Yeah. All these collabs when you have like Trio or that one or the Highwaymen or any of these collabs they did, and especially I love we didn't mention him, but another outlaw that I adore is Johnny Paycheck, and when he has all these he's on this he's on the outlaw out of those. Yeah, so he pops in and out of those, and I'm like, man, I love him too. And
he's on the Outlaws one too, is he?
No, I think he's on which Waylon one? He's on one of those where he pops in and out of one of those. But he's another one that, and you know who else I love that I feel like never gets talked about is Billy Joe Shaver, and he's just an old chunk of coal. But he's another one that he's under the radar. I feel like Johnny Paycheck in that outlaw group, and Billy Joe Shaver in that outlaw group, that he's awesome, great lyrics. He just is one that he wasn't in the top 4 with those guys of the Outlaws, so he's kind of off the radar.
Have you listened to David Allan Coe, who wrote that song? He's a great outlaw country guy, David Allan Coe from that area.
Yeah. There's, I don't know, I love outlaw country, so I love outlaw and before, and that's not many of the guys now can live up to that at all. So I'm always chasing the dragon and trying to find these new country guys that are really good.
Going back, it's like going back. It's like Great Gatsby. You keep going back. Into
it. Yeah.
It's that today's new country, and it's something that Al has talked about. It's all produced by the same producer.
And then when it sounds like rap almost. That's so annoying to me that you have poppy
beat to
the
it,
poppy country that has that rap quality to it. Which
or it sounds like pop, I Taylor.
Most new rap is so bad.
What's that girl, Taylor or something?
Taylor Swift.
Some broad. Taylor Fast or something.
That's not country. That's pop.
Taylor Fast or something like that. I don't know.
That's like
broad that's like bigger than the Beatles that were bigger than Jesus or something.
Yeah, whatever. She's just Disneyland kid shit. But I love that you used the word broad. Very loosely.
Yeah, I love using the word broad. She's a broad. Yeah. So
broad.
Just some broad.
Yeah, it's so funny because I heard that word last week from an older man who called me in the pharmacy. He goes, "Hey, is my medicine ready?" That broad from the doctor's office. To call it in.
Bring it back. We're gonna bring back broad.
I love it, guys. Say broad.
Yeah,
because you don't want to say girl. I don't want to say girl, and then I
think broad is stronger.
Woman,
makes a woman sound stronger.
Yeah, and like woman like is kind of like
that's a broad.
Something too formal about women.
It's a little clinical.
It's broad.
Yeah, no, I like broad.
Broad is good. I like broad. Broads. These crazy broads. I don't know.
Yeah, broad. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I like broad.
All right, Andy, anything else you want to? Because my computer is literally unplugged.
No.
I gotta go plug it back in. So I'm gonna go out in a second.
Ed's running out of ice.
No, but I wanted to say, let's say our goodbyes. This was a fantastic show. Thank you for a fantastic,
great album,
Edwin. It was a fantastic album to talk about. This was such an unorthodox podcast because it was a very unorthodox album.
I like it, but this is an unorthodox album, and our conversation suited everything that we needed, and we got out a lot of. This is a very cathartic.
I worked out a lot of stuff.
Yeah. This is working out some past aggressions and things, I think, for me and others.
This is the perfect album to do it too. So thank you so much, guys.
What a great
pick. Thank you very much, Kate. Thank you for everything, guys. Thanks for taking the time and doing the research, Kate, as always. Thank you so much for that part. And next week, we are going to be doing One and Done with Black Sabbath. That is picking your one track from each album. So only pick one track. We did that with the Beatles, and that was fun. And Zeppelin, that was fun. Now it's Sabbath's turn.
Ooh, Zeppelin was such a good one.
Yeah.
And obviously Beatles was like my Sophie's choice of Sophie's choices. but yeah, Sabbath will be a really fun one. Yeah.
So and I'll be doing a podcast about the Beatles with Kate in the future.
Yes, we need to set this up. Yes.
Yes. So I hope you don't mind, Andy. I poach your show sometimes. First, I did it with Al, and then with Kate. But we're going to pitch your show very heavily on this episode.
Yes.
So you know, because gotta give it up. And of course, we're going to get you on the show eventually too, Andy. You're awesome. I love your show. It's great.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate all the setup and coordination, Andy. This was very fun. I'm glad you asked me to be on this one.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you were able to make it because I know that unfortunately you might have been on the fence about this, and I hope
I didn't know we had a bunch of family stuff going on, family stuff, but it worked out. I made it in time. I love my Willie. You guys know that.
You did great, and you did your research.
I read. Look at how many notes I have. I didn't even read half of the stuff I wrote out.
Whoa! Look at that.
And
I am just finishing college, so I am very big note taker.
Send it to me. I want to see.
I'll take
you didn't say.
Oh, good luck reading my Swahili. I'll have to decipher.
It was like Monday evening that she told me that she was definitely going to be able to make it. So this was a last minute thing.
Well, I got home last night and was like, I need to do my homework for this show, and was busting it out, listening to the album, reading all these different blogs and different stuff. Like read the whole wiki, but wiki's always like, you don't know what to trust in wiki. So I read a bunch of blogs
on wiki,
and then I go down a rabbit hole where it's like, well, who was he married to when? And when did this album come out? And how many kids did he have with this person? And how many times did he have and this person? And then he had this divorce and then this wedding. And then I found that song where I'm like, oh, this song, you can tell he's like either cheating on his wife or he's like getting ready to, because you can hear it in the lyrics with this other broad. And then I'm like,
I definitely want to hear that broad song. So definitely send me that.
I'll send you a link to it, because I go down a rabbit hole and I'm like, well, how many albums did he really make? He had this, and how many live albums? So I get this is how my brain is, how I'm talking right now. This is how fast my brain is, like all the time. all the time.
I can relate. Let's just say I can relate.
So then I get defrazzled and I calm down and I relay all this information.
You did. You brought a lot to the table. It was
and
great.
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you.
you always
Thank
do.
you. I appreciate it. Yeah.
I
Yeah. I love this. It's so much fun.
stuff.
All right. Good stuff.
All right.
Later, guys. Bye.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Have a good night.
And I will see you all and talk to you all throughout the week. Bye, guys. Y'all take care.
Yes. Take it easy.
Bye. And broadcast.